Hello, Internet! This is Quest Clear Cast Episode 1. I'm Owen, and today I'm with Brian.
Hello.
I'm also... I'm also... I'm also with Eunice.
Yo, what's up?
And I'm also with Arden.
Hello.
And today, we're going to do why this podcast was starting in the first place. We are going to talk about the Xenoblade games. This is Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade X, Xenoblade 2, and then Xenoblade 2's expansion, Torn of the Golden Country. Arden has, over the past 10 months or so, been playing these games, and now he's finished them all, and we're going to talk about them. We're going to put it right now, spoiler warning, we're going to be probably heavily spoiling all these games, including plot
Major
twists.
spoilers.
And these are JRPGs. So if you know anything about JRPGs, then you should know that you should be wary about their insane plots, and that you should maybe play the games before listening. If you are not going to play the games before listening to this, it may be a little confusing for you, but if you choose that, stay with us. But again, I highly recommend playing the games first.
Yeah, there's a lot of context.
So
Yeah.
much things that we're probably gonna both skim over and expand upon. So you might want to
Yeah.
play the games before you listen to this.
Exactly. All right. With that, before that, is there anything else we want to mention before we get started on our first game?
Man,
think
this
we're
game
good.
is so expensive on Amazon.
Yes.
All right. Before we start on Xenoblade 1, let's talk about Operation Rainfall.
Right, that's actually a good place to start. So, Operation Rainfall, for those who don't know, is a letter writing campaign. I wasn't a part of it, I joined later, but the three games featured were...
Xenoblade 1, and then The Last Story, and then it was Pandora's Tower.
Yes, and I heard that of those three, Xenoblade was the best, Last Story was pretty good, and then Pandora's Tower was just okay, I think.
That was the general consensus on Metacritic and everywhere else, yeah.
Mhm.
Although The Last Story was
well-
not re-released on the Wii U, Pandora's Tower and Xenoblade 1 were re-released though.
Basically,
Oh,
means I need to track down a copy of The Last Story soon.
They're expensive on Amazon though, so you'll be paying a pretty penny for it. It's like above retail price, I believe, or around that. I don't remember, but around that.
Yeah, but one of the most important things to mention here is that this Xenoblade 1 was originally a game that Nintendo didn't want to touch in the West really, like at all. JRPGs are a super niche genre.
Actually, they wanted to bring it to the West. It was just not North America. It was gonna come out in Europe, so it was like, why not?
Right? Yeah.
And the thing is, this wasn't new for Monolith because if you remember, Disaster, Day of Crisis, did not come out in North America at all. And
Really?
North America was really weird within Nintendo of America's line of sight because Pikmin 2, the Wii version, didn't release until years later after the European release too.
Yeah. So when it comes to Nintendo of America's release, when it comes to like the super weird kind of games that you don't get really a lot of publicity, like re-releases and whatnot, Nintendo of America can be hit or miss with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like when it comes to Xeno games, Europe got hit too because they only got Xenosaga Episode 2 and not Episode 1 and 3, or Xenogears for that matter. So
That's like, uh-oh. I picked up Episode 2 and why is this yeah.
What's
Although-
happening?
Yeah, it's like
yeah, what's happening is a
I'm
big
dropped
question.
into. It's like you're trying to watch Rocky 2 instead of before Rocky 1.
Yeah,
I was about to say
actually,
Empire Strikes Back compared to A New Hope, but Empire Strikes Back stands on its own, sort of.
yeah. All right, so that's Operation Rainfall.
Actually, that was the thing that got me into following game news. Like, that was the first thing I saw on the internet. Like, seriously.
I mean, Japanese, when it comes to these RPGs, whether it be like something like Mother 3 or Xenoblade, if there's a demand for it, you're going to get a lot of petitions and such like that to bring it over to the West, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Xenoblade 1 also exceeded a lot of expectations from what I remembered.
Yeah, so Xenoblade 1, I believe the story goes that the only reason why they brought it to North America was if it sold a certain amount of copies in Europe, I think.
Well, that and I think there was like actual Amazon pre-orders, I believe.
Oh, right, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, so Minato beginning of the world when it was still called that before it was changed to Xenoblade. I think
Not a bad title, honestly.
yeah, the game went really into the Amazon pre-orders kind of blew up on that game.
Yeah. So
like,
and it's like it was proof that there is money to be made. That was like one big reason why Operation Rainfall really succeeded, is because they proved that, like, money talks.
Well, when it comes to the thing about Operation Rainfall is that it's a lot of dispute over whether or not if that's what caused Nintendo to, if they even acknowledge the Rainfall people, because, I mean, for sure, the money being made from Xenoblade 1 was why they brought it over, for sure. But I'm not sure, I don't think they've ever said at all if the Letter Ryan campaign specifically was a factor in them bringing it over or not. I think it was mostly the sales of it in Europe and the pre-orders on Amazon.
Perhaps so. But Operation Rainfall was a success, and because of that, Xenoblade grew as a brand, and a big reason why it helped it even become a thing in the West. Like a big thing.
Because of Operation Rainfall, that's what caused Xenoblade to be released in North America?
Yeah.
Well,
although, as we've stated before, it's debatable if it actually did come, or if Nintendo was going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. But basically, the point is that there's a lot of uncertainty about whether the first game would be released, but it was, and ironically, that led into one of their biggest niche franchises in all of Nintendo's catalog, with Xenoblade X and Xenoblade 2 selling extremely well, and Xenoblade X specifically is selling well as a Wii U game. It actually sold quite well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's Operation Rainfall. Are we ready to move on to our first game?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man,
sure.
this is the beginning for me.
Yep. Xenoblade Chronicles 1, released in Japan 2010, Europe 2011, and North America in 2012. It follows the adventures of Shulk, the heir to the Monado, a legendary sword that can defeat the machines called Mechon. It follows his adventures as he travels around the world, solving the mysteries of the land he calls home, the Bionis and the Mechonis. Widely considered one of the greatest RPGs released in the 7th generation of video game consoles, in an era when JRPGs were severely
Lackluster.
lackluster.
Yeah.
Exactly. Xenoblade 1 really stood out as a shining example of what the genre could be. And a lot of the success stories comes from Monolith Soft, past JRPG aficionados that have its roots back to Squaresoft, creator of the Final Fantasy series. Tetsuya Takahashi helped make this game a reality. The game involved many MMO aspects from Western games, as well as just Western design philosophy melded with Eastern design philosophy, which created a very balanced experience that basically everyone can really appreciate. Matter of fact, I consider this game to be the one that everyone should at least try.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That
Sounds
I can
good.
agree on.
Yeah. So yeah,
Start
let's
with
get
the story first.
Yeah, let's start with story.
This is the biggest reason why everyone should play this game, because
Yeah,
honestly,
story.
the story overshadows everything else. Because I feel like that after Xenoblade X and 2, I have no reason to go back to Xenoblade 1's gameplay.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
disagree.
bad, but I still like Xenoblade 1's gameplay. It's just that I feel like X and 2's are just vastly superior nowadays.
Well, I have a soft spot for how Xenoblade 1 handles its gameplay, which we'll get into more in the gameplay section of this game.
We'll get into that later, because it's really the story is the main attraction of Xenoblade 1, and I'll die on this hill in saying that it's the best story in the entire Xeno catalog, because I feel like Xenogears is better on paper, but it kind of falls flat in terms of storytelling, particularly in Disc 2, and I have some issues with it in Disc 1 too, but since this isn't about Xenogears, this is basically like my abridged thoughts. But I'll just go on and say that Xenoblade 1 has my favorite story in the entire series.
I'm gonna agree with it slightly. It's not my favorite story in the series. We'll get into that later, but it has my favorite story execution.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is that, like, there's a difference between what story is within the game and how it's told. I think Xenoblade 1 has an extremely well-paced, well-thought-out story that feels very tight, very told in a very deliberate way to make you keep guessing and guessing and guessing.
Lots of foreshadowing also.
yeah, this game is why foreshadowing is my favorite literary device in
This
media.
game is shadowing the game.
Yeah, you can see the future. And it just runs with it, so...
Actually, that's
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why, like, the game does a bunch of different interesting things, but the first thing I remember specifically, the reason why I kept with it, because if you look at it on a Wii, it takes a minute to get used to the we'll get into the presentation later, but what captivated me was the idea that there are these two gigantic titans fighting in an endless ocean, no other land in sight, and it's from there that life grew. I didn't think of it at the time, and I thought of it as something completely original. But this is actually something that the Lego Bionicle series did years and years ago, with the idea of like their entire species living on giant robots.
Yeah.
But I was just captivated because not only does it imply a very creative world design where the parts that you live on of the body corresponds to your culture and stuff like that, but also because there's two and that they killed each other in combat, it created it create a natural divide between us and them, which is a very important mindset to go into when you're playing this game.
It's also a theme within the story, kind of. I will say.
I'd say it's more of a subversion.
Yeah, and that leads into some of the bigger twists in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And
like, you spend
another
the whole
cool-
time thinking, oh, Bionis, yay, and just...
Nope.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Another cool thing is that they made the world before they even thought of like the story. Like the world is preset until they made the actual story.
This goes into what Monolith Soft's philosophy is, because if you look into their Monolith Soft's recent job hirings, they say no RPG is good without a good map.
Mm-hmm. This Monolith Soft's art design, like they were like doing open world RPGs before it was really when the genre of an open world single player or a Japanese role playing game, specifically Japanese, because we could talk about Skyrim and stuff like that all day.
Yeah.
But in the Japanese sphere, it was really developing the open world JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Well, as
again,
open as it can be, because I don't think Xenoblade 1 or 2 are really open world games, because they're really just linear JRPGs with just big levels. That's really...
Yeah, it falls into more of a zone philosophy where the games
Progressive with the
are
story.
separated into zones.
And progressive with the story.
Yeah, but at the same time, it lets you create a story that runs at a pace that you want, and it just works super well overall. Characters.
Oh yeah, the characters.
Ooh,
I mean, everyone.
these guys. Yeah, these
Does
guys
anyone
are
not-
awesome.
Does anyone not like Shulk? I mean,
He's awesome.
Not really. He's great.
Shulk, as a character stands well as a character who he's like super optimistic, kind of nerdy. Not like he's not meant to be like a badass or anything like that. He's meant to be
He's very socially
That's
awkward.
that's Dunban.
no, he's a socially awkward kind of 18-year-old kind of guy who knows what he
Somewhat
wants to
geeky.
do. Somewhat geeky,
Tinker.
yeah. I mean, like if you look at other games of the time, games that like the Chosen Hero is done to death, but also just like Final Fantasy, where
Final
you
Fantasy
had
13, where lightning was like cloud, except not as interesting.
yeah, like a big. This is like JRPG, major console JRPGs. I know a lot of them focus on like maybe like a more depressed kind of like almost forcibly cool protagonist.
Someone like Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. Who was
Yeah, I mean like
depressed.
it was still like moving out of that phase after the Golden Age, which the Golden Age is considered to be SNES 2, PS1, PS2 slightly.
Sort of
but
PS2.
Sort of PS2.
Some
Beginning,
people say that Final Fantasy X was the start of the end, but
yeah, that's where I think of it on. But basically, that's another topic for another day.
yeah.
But Shulk I think stands extremely well as not only as just a really likable protagonist, but also one that really like he feels genuine because he's a genuine person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like he's like the super kind of he's not like annoyingly like friendly or happy or anything like that. He has like this. He feels like a realist if that makes any sense.
It's not really pessimistic or optimistic.
Well, I mean, he has a pessimism skill branch, but that's beside the point.
Oh,
He does
yeah,
indeed.
ugh.
Right.
Yeah, that is true. But it's just that being a realist doesn't mean you're blind to one way or another. You just gotta take the good with the bad.
Yeah. The supporting cast is also extremely strong. We got, obviously, the British best friend, Ryan, Charla, the medic of the group, which is like a kind of interesting take on like the healer. There's Dunban, the old warrior who kind of is a mentor.
The mentor.
Yeah, the mentor.
Yeah, the mentor of the group.
Yeah. There's then Melia, the I suppose the wizard, but also like the princess of the group, and there's Ricky, who is partially comic relief, but honestly,
The team mascot.
the team mascot partially, but I
Kind of like also
don't-
like the dad of the group. Kind of like he's like 44.
Wait,
or
if he's a dad, then who's Dumban?
Dunban.
he's the older brother. He's the
Yeah.
he's the wise sensei or something like that.
Okay, fair enough then.
And then of course there's Fiora. Well, gameplay wise, she's a Protean, but from a story perspective, she is a she's obviously like the love interest, but also kind of creates her own character in the process of when she dies.
The few first seconds of the game, she already
Yeah,
has
when
her,
she-
her, like a personality set in stone. Like not set in stone, but like
Like, she-
they explain her character
established.
really well in those that first couple minutes of the game.
Well, like she's defined as like a character who is
Just carrying and stuff like that, and a bit
Caring.
sassy. Nothing.
Yeah,
it's
but-
not really that special at first, but then it just grows and grows as you go along. So
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
after her death, but when you get her back, she really starts to grow as her own independent character.
yeah,
Especially because she has intrinsic. She's not just Fiora. Aside from Shulk, definitely feels like the biggest like moving piece in the grander story, just because of the nature of the world of her being the host to the soul of the Mechanis.
yeah. But although that's going into way later on in the story, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, I like
Yeah,
the
the
cast a
spoiler
lot.
warning and everything.
oops.
Well, I already did. I already did.
Yeah,
the
we already
spoilers.
did
But I
that, but
That's what I meant.
after those we have like all the like the minor characters like what's that you say? What's that you say? Alvis is one of the bigger supporting characters.
Yeah, bigger ones. But
Yeah,
He's probably the most important character in the entire game.
yeah,
maybe
Al-
like Dixon and
You have
Yeah,
Dixon,
supporting char-
Mumkar, and then you have the main leader
Callian.
of Mechanis.
Callian.
Yeah, Callian, Melia's half brother.
Mhm.
And the Emperor of the High Antia. Oh, that's we
Saurian.
forgot about that.
Lorithia.
Melia is not a human. She's a half human, half High Antia hybrid.
Yeah, and so that's another thing. This game does a really good job of defining the races of the world. There are four major races. There are the Homs, or the humans. There's the Nopon, which are basically like these little puffballs. The mascot.
Yep.
They're the mascots of the Xenoblade series.
Also the drug traders.
Yeah, yeah. I find it interesting how the mascot of Monolith Soft is probably the most greedy, merchanty kind of characters that you could ever imagine.
Greedy, self-serving, and all around more sinister.
Drug
Yeah,
traders.
exactly. There's the High Entia, which are like the portrayed throughout it as
More,
like the
it's like the long lost civilization nobody knows about.
Kind of like
Yes.
the royalty. Like they own like a town, like a big
Yeah.
city, and it's like
Yeah.
governed by like a monarchy or whatever. So
yeah. And then there's the
finally-
Machina. There's the Machina, which are
Machina. Those are basically the soul race in Mechanis.
yeah,
Yeah, the Machina are to Mechanis as the Homs are to Bionis.
yeah.
Indeed.
So with that in mind, the story runs at a extremely tight pace, where it basically revolves around Shulk using the Monado, which is the legendary sword of this game. He sees the future, typically in visions, and he follows those visions to further his own goals. At the beginning of the game, it's a story of revenge, kind of JRPG, typical invasion of an enemy. Your town burns down.
Starts off with, like, a tragedy. It starts off with a tragedy.
Very much.
Yeah. Town burns down.
That tragedy is the death of Fiora.
Mm-hmm.
Town burns down, stuff like that, and you have to head out and get revenge. This is for quite, like, honestly, half the game. This is a revenge tale.
Mm-hmm.
Against Metalface and the Mechon. Yeah,
so the Mechon are the machine opposition to the Hums. They've been at war for many, many years, and the entire first half of the game is exploring the land of Bionis that you call your home, and rescuing people and helping people from whatever troubles may be facing them. Specifically, the first destination you hit is Colony 6, which you go mainly as a place to hear rumors, find out what's going on around them, and you later find out that the Mechon have also invaded Colony 6, in addition to your own hometown, which is Colony 9. You go into the Ether Mines, you meet Sharla, you help people out, and from there, you receive a vision. Shulk receives a vision which will help him power up the Monado to be able to kill these faced Mechon, which cannot be harmed by the Monado. And as you go along, you come across different people. You meet the Nopon, the Hyante, as they're fighting against the Telethia, these dinosaur-esque creatures who cause a lot of problems and who fly and can kind of eat the life energy of what's around
them. Their mind,
they can control the ether.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember thinking throughout that entire first half, I guess you can call it, up to Prison Island, a half maybe.
Yeah, Prison Island marks the halfway point.
Yeah, that entire first act and everything. I remember thinking, this just the game is a revenge tale. Very simple, but I like it. And then you hit Prison Island, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it develops as you go along. That's really what I love about Xenoblade 1 story, is that it keeps on getting bigger in scale. Because, like, initially, it's a lot like your standard JRPG story. And it still has a lot of JRPG tropes even all the way up to the end of the game, but it uses them in an effective way that tells a pretty good story, pretty damn good story, if I should say so myself, and it just keeps on giving and giving and giving. And some twists are obvious in hindsight, although, I mean, that's in hindsight. When you're in the mood, it's like, what's gonna happen next? It keeps you guessing in a good way, not in a bad way. It's like, oh, I hope they're not gonna pull something out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's how I felt a lot about it too, going through the story. It's just like, I mean, it's been so long, I wish I had a better memory of my first reactions, but a lot of it was spent thinking one thing, and then the game's like, yeah, it's kind of like that, but also not. Yeah. And, like, it just kept doing that, and I really appreciated it every single time.
Mm-hmm. That's really Xenoblade 1's biggest strength over Xenoblade X and 2, is that it had more of a mystery.
It's mystery, and that ties into how the plot is paced. If you look overall, it's not very interesting of a plot, really. If you look at it from a detached perspective, you're following a character going through solving problems, trying to climb to the top of this creature, because that's just the natural progression of things, to power up your sword and be able to finish off. For the first half, that sounds pretty boring. But the way it keeps you engaged is it obviously introduces you to characters that you're engaged in and you really care about, but it also gives you the hints of mystery and how foreshadowing. It basically spoils itself, but in a way that you have no context for, so you can't piece anything together. It always makes sure to withhold the most crucial pieces of information, so that way you can't put the full puzzle together.
Yeah, there's characters that literally say things that don't even show up until later on in the game, and then
In fact, the game itself spoils key details. Right before Fiora dies, with the whole vision, Shulk receives in the lab. You know how it spoils all those things, like with Ego surviving the Monado stab through the shoulder, and all that
Yeah.
other stuff beyond that.
Yeah, there was that one vision that. Which one was it? It was one of the very first ones, but it's the first time that Shulk sees like all the way up through Prison Island and all that. And I think actually Eggle's
back
in
in
the
the lab.
vision too.
Yeah, that's the this is why for a long time your blade it did not cut deep enough was a very famous line in all of Xenoblade, because that was one of the first lines that you heard in the visions, and when they followed up it takes on a completely different meaning. And that's another thing it does too. It shows you visions that you feel like you have a very good perspective on, like you want this to happen to help you to this end. But by the end of by the time the vision is resolved, you realize, no, I want something different to happen, or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just surprising because that vision that takes you all the way to Eggle. I remember when I first saw it, and I'm like, I had no idea what it was. But then, like, doing a new game plus and doing it again, you see that vision, you're like, well, they showed that much?
Yeah.
It's just having context really, makes it a totally different experience.
Like, at the very beginning of the game, like, Shulk says something, and it completely, like, references the big event in, like, Mikana's core, like, all the way back at the very beginning of the game. It references that.
It's very
You wouldn't
subtle.
notice that until your second, like, maybe a second playthrough.
Yeah, the game is super, super good. And, like, I think the translators did a really good job of doing it as well, the localizers, of portraying how subtle the little bits and pieces of the things are that things you honestly wouldn't think of, because you think that the characters are speaking in metaphor, like the one that the scene that Arn's talking about is where Shulk is mentioning that he hears two voices in his head, and in our culture and stuff like that, you think, okay, so he's just having this moral dilemma of whether or not to go after the Mechon. But later on, you realize, oh no, that's actually a second voice in his head.
Yep.
It actually literally is a second voice, basically, yeah.
Yeah, telling him to kill them all, and
You don't realize that until the big turning point of the game.
Another thing is, another great scene is on Prison Island, toward the end of the first half, is where the giant Zanza mentions that nothing but a god could stand in Shulk's way. And yeah, that sounds like hyperbole. Like, you don't, like, of course nothing but a god can stand in your way. That, like, turning a god in the context of Xenoblade sounds ridiculous. You've been fighting bunnies and robots, but
Wait. Are you implying that Territory Robot is not a god?
He's
Well, I
an
mean,
annoying god.
Are you trying to promote false gods? Hello?
No, but I feel like the game in general just feels really well paced, and I'm sure there are people who maybe don't go back and play it for a second time. And if you play this game and you haven't already, and for some reason you're still listening to it, this podcast, I implore you, if you haven't played the game or haven't played it a second time, go do that. Playing the game for a second time, it has pros and cons. The cons being you don't get to be surprised anymore, but the pros is stuff like you see all these hints that you didn't pick up the first time, but now they're there.
Yeah. And it's a lot more elegant than something like Xenogears, where I feel like you have to replay it a second time just to have a basic grasp of what's going on, because I feel like a lot of Xenogears is very vague and confusing, and sometimes it works to its benefit. Most of the time, it's to its detriment. Xenoblade 1 doesn't have the negatives of Xenogears, and it goes back to make it a second time. It's like, oh, this is so much cooler, and instead of like, oh, this is what they meant. That's how I feel.
thing.
Yeah, I feel like in general the first half is built to the first half is meant to build a foundation. Because honestly, in the first half, they introduce all the characters, which you should do in a JRPG. Let's be honest. They introduce all our characters. We get to know them. We get to know a lot of the central threats in the world: the Mechon, the Telethia, some of like the super like covert conspiracies with the Hyantia, like the assassination order and stuff like that. Like, we're introduced to a lot of that like strife, and from there the game builds on itself to create because you can't, some of the heights that Xenoblade 1 reaches cannot exist without
The build-up.
the build-up. Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I love about Xenoblade 1 and all the Xenoblade games, mostly, is that like you can never predict the villain from the beginning.
That's
Like,
true.
At the beginning, you think it's like the Mechon, like they killed Fior, like revenge. And you like once you get to like Mechonis, you like start to think like Egil, like oh yeah, Egil, and then
he's the
like
leader and all that.
yeah, the leader, and like he takes control of the Mechonis. But like eventually, you learn out that like the actual villain isn't any of those guys. It's yeah. That's what I love about Xenoblade. Like you can never predict the villain from the start.
Although X and 2 still have the same overarching villain.
Yeah,
Because X still has Luxar and Gangly, and 2 still has Torna from beginning to end.
yeah, but plus Amalthus.
You get Amalthus in 2 and Lao in X, but those are
Yeah.
they're not how do I put this? It's like not like the central antagonist, I should say. Like I mean, I know Amalthus is jumping the gun a bit here, but I know Amalthus is like the big catalyst for all the bad stuff that happens in 2. It's just that within the story itself, Torn is still the villain from beginning to end. So it's one that really shifts around its villains all the time.
One a lot, but that's what I love about 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 shifts its villains a lot, which I really, really appreciate. So it's like there's
One's
always
such
like
great villains.
but it doesn't feel all that bad. Although I have my problem with Zanza, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. Yeah, but before we move on to the second half of Xenoblade 1, because we've only talked about the first one, this game is long.
This game is super long. It's like
Like, how long did it take everyone here to complete the story their
Took
first
me
time?
90 hours.
it took me
90 hours.
50 hours.
Took me about 100 and something.
Dang.
I played it a lot.
My final playthrough of Xenoblade 1 for the 100% run through was 160 hours, so...
Oh dear.
Jeez.
Well, it took me around 120 to 100% it.
I didn't even 100% it. I played it like
it's
4
not
times.
worth it. It's
Have
not worth it.
I don't know, you're telling me I didn't enjoy grinding endgame items for 8 hours trying to take on the last super
Oh
boss?
boy, I totally love running around in circles, picking up ice cabbages and black liver beans.
No, that's terrible.
It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
worst thing ever, and somehow they made it worse in X, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, in
That's the
gameplay.
thing. I don't even think I did that much like grinding for specific gear in the original Xenoblade because I never beat the sewer bosses in that game, so I never went through the
that's-
hassle of setting that up. But I did for X, and that's one of the things I hate the most about X. Oh my gosh!
X
Xenoblade...
X has
Like,
problems.
Xenoblade overall, like, the difficulty curve is not that high. It's a pretty... It's not... I would say it's an easy game, but it is a... It's not hard if you just, keep up, change your equipment...
It's a
do
very
couple-
malleable game. It's very easy to break. Like, there's a
Yeah.
very, very, very high amount of exploitable strategies I can use in every single game. This isn't just one. It goes with X and 2. X especially has so many game breakers.
Yeah.
Alright.
I don't even remember if I ever got stuck in Xenoblade 1. To be completely honest, it's been so long because
It's
I
not
know
really-
that the internet made it popular to be like, "Oh, Lorithia is so terrible,"
nothing in
but I don't remember.
Barely anything in 1 gave me pause. The only actually the only boss that gave me trouble was Dixon at the end. I didn't have trouble with Lorithia, but I had trouble with Dixon because I kept missing.
The only boss I died to in Xenoblade 1 was the final form of Zanza because I messed up a chain attack.
Oops.
Oopsie daisy.
Yeah. But overall,
mine was like
while
sword
I did die a few times against the bosses, it wasn't really hard because it didn't really feel like 'cause it's mostly due to dumb mistakes, and I could just rearrange my team and booyah, I could beat him.
Yep.
Yeah. One more thing I want to mention before we move on to the second half of the story, though, is looking back on it, I was extremely impressed with how the Hyentia, the royal dynasty, is portrayed. It feels, I don't want to say realistic or anything like that, but it feels a lot more grounded in what a royalty should be or what a royalty is like. Like obviously, like platformers or like Legend of Zelda, Mario, like the royalty is like super basic, and even some JRPGs do royalty super basic, and then some do in a higher fantasy setting. But I like the fact that the royal family in Xenoblade 1 is portrayed to be this kind of there's a lot of like racial problems. There's a lot of like backhand deals. A lot of like Melia mentions how isolated she was for most of her childhood because you can't really grow up among the common people.
With like the side quests, they explain like the racism in like the high end tier, like Alchemath.
Yeah, but even more than that, like you get the feeling how lonely Melia was just growing up in this environment because high royalty is a very, very like prince and princesses in the real world probably don't get a ton. Well, they do now, but back in like the Middle Ages and stuff like that, they almost never interacted with.
Although that isn't really specific to Xenoblade, because I know that some other games like Final Fantasy IX, I think so, like Garnet was also a bit sheltered. There's also and the sheltered princess is also another trope.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying like overall, like there's a lot, like not just that, but also like the assassination attempts, the fact that there's like a lot. There's a lot. I feel like there's a lot more politics involved here.
Yeah, the political aspect of it. Well, in relation to the game, not in real life, but in relation to the game, there is a lot more behind the scenes politics that really add to the world building.
It feels a lot more grounded than a lot of fantasy royalties and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Not everything's gonna be hunky dory or like. Mm-hmm. And this is something else that Torna touches upon too, sort of.
Yeah.
But not really in racism, but in other areas. But we'll get to Torna when we get to that.
Yeah, but I mean, like this, like it's kind of refreshing because this is super uncommon in video games. It's a lot more common in like popular TV, movies, stuff like that. Like Lord of the Rings is
maybe Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones
and Lord of the Rings are very much have this as like a central theme. Mm-hmm. But video games never really want to touch about it because it doesn't really sound fun. But Xenoblade makes it part of the world building, and because you're learning more about the world, it kind of makes it fun indirectly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the high-end tier royal family just was so interesting to learn about because they weren't trying to kill each other at all the times like you see in a lot of other places. Obviously, Yumea and Lorithia notwithstanding, you would think that everybody would have a reason to want to backstab each other, but Saurian, Callian, and Melia totally fine with each other. They
and the royal guard is super loyal and stuff like that. Just like you get the impression that a lot of like the ministries and stuff like that they mention are very much valid. And yeah, but it's but like there is definitely, it's like it feels like there's enough like kind of corruption in the background, but not so much that this royalty becomes unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Alright, so second half of the game. Actually there's not a ton of compared to the first game, the second half is actually super basic until the second half of the story.
Yeah, like the first one core.
If that made any sense, yeah.
Yeah, the first half of the second half of the story. I'm now referring to it as that.
It's like the second half of the story mostly takes place on Mechonis, right? Like over to Sword Valley.
It's almost entirely Mechonis, where you go through Sword Valley, Galahad Fortress. You're trying to rescue Fiora, who you've recently discovered is still alive and has been turned into a cyborg. Mm-hmm. Is being brainwashed was being quote unquote brainwashed by the Mechon. So the entire part of that story is trying to rescue her. Yep. You meet Egil, the leader of Mechonis, self-proclaimed leader of Mechonis, whose central goal is to destroy the Monado. Which, as someone who has been using the Monado all game, you kind of have a connection with the sword.
Don't touch
my sword.
Don't touch my Monado.
I think was the reason that he wanted to destroy the Monado because the Bionist was the original wielder.
In it.
Because it is Zanza. It's Zanza's soul.
Yeah, it's Zanza's soul, and it's the Bionist's sword that he used to destroy to defeat the Mechonis in the battle.
Well, Egil knows about all the metaphysics of the how gods work, in how just in general, just how it works. It's us as the players and as the Homs who don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to touch on this too. Instead of like something stupid like amnesia or something like that, I like how in the way that they introduce the world is just that Homs don't live long enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Like the Nopon live for like 150 years, the High Antia live for like 500 years, and then the Machina live for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
Well,
the
isn't
oldest-
there this
oldest
Nopon
Machina.
stage that lived for like 10,000 years?
9,900. It's like
Well, the
9,999.
The Nopon sage is implied to be more magical and more mystical, which is why he's in Xenoblade
Yeah.
2 as well.
Oh, so he's a god.
Kind of, yeah. He's the
Well, then
Nopon
where
god.
was he against the final boss against Sansa?
Yeah.
They use his help.
Like
Okay.
I think the oldest Machina you can find is like 9,968 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because
I think
it's implied that
Neodex,
there's a
maybe.
that one quest in Colony 6. It's implied a lot that it's heavily implied that there are ages beyond the 9,999 time limit, but for practicality reasons, you wouldn't need to be higher than that.
Yeah.
You know,
And
how
she was
old
like-
is Mikkel?
Mikkel is I don't know. He's not part of the affinity chart, so you never know his age, but it's implied to be very old because it's
He
he's been
saw the fight.
He's also
He's
like really, yeah, he is like really old. He was there since the beginning. I mean,
and Egil was there since the beginning. So if Egil was there, Mikkel's his father. So
Yeah.
man, Nicole has seen some bad days.
yeah,
Like
no, go for it.
another thing that I like about Egil is I remember when I was first playing this. Owen, you told me about Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is the name of his Mechon.
Yes,
And Yaldabaoth basically means like one who wants to be God.
Yaldabaoth is
That's
one of the Yaldabaoth is one of the names for the demiurge in Gnosticism, which is a religion. And basically, its names are weird in religion because their names also translates to what they're trying to be. So, for example, the Archangel Michael literally translates roughly to who is like God, and basically anyone who confronts against Michael is like, no one is like God, so thus you fall. Which is why Michael is like seen as like the protector, I think, if I'm getting my angels correct. But Yaldabaoth is one of the names of the demiurge, and it is it basically means one who wishes to become a god. Yeah.
And that kind of
Fitting.
is shown later on that like when he takes control of the Mechonis, and basically like because he's not supposed to be the one who controls the Mechonis. That's supposed to be
Maneth.
Maneth, yeah. So I think that's interesting about Egil.
Yeah, it's a really interesting little bit of foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
Let's see what else there's. Yeah. So
'cause it's
yeah,
a
and
hard
what,
game.
yeah, you eventually get Fura back, and you meet the Machina, who are the machine people. The Machina are different from the Mechon. The Mechon are the basically foot soldiers. They don't really have a consciousness. They're just robots that you send in to fight your battles. But the Machina are.
The faced Mechon are basically Homs shoved inside of machines.
Yeah, so they're cyborgs.
That's one of the big twists too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so like in the overall, the second half of the game just follows you. You resolve a lot of character points. You resolve Charla's character arc, where she and her fiance Gato were separated, and Gato had become a face Mechon, so you help her, and that's a really touching scene. You
it
learn
is.
more about Fiora, how she survived, and the spirit living inside of her, Maneth. And then you confront Egil. You learn about the ancient civilization of the Mechonis
Agniartha.
and Agniartha, which is my favorite area in all of Xenoblade 1.
It's really good.
I think
And-
actually Satoru Marsh is my favorite, but I guess we'll talk about favorite zones later on.
Yeah, and I just want to get through this. We probably shouldn't honestly have not talked about the story in depth as we should have, but you get to the top, and it
This
all
is like
ends.
a big scene.
Yeah, it all ends with Dixon Shulk's kind of foster parent
His kind of like his dad, basically.
shoots him in the back. and emerges Zanza, the name of the giant that you had fought earlier, is the god of the world. And then Xenoblade turns into... So Xenoblade changes its genre a couple of times. It changes from a revenge story to a rescue story, and from here it becomes a more traditional save the world plot, but it's done in a way that makes you feel like you're already involved, so you might as well see it through to the end, which makes it a little bit less tropey, because it builds up to that point, because it's never established, like, there's no threat to the world in the beginning. It's just you want to get revenge, right? And then you want to save a specific person, and then you want to save the whole world.
Yeah.
But I really like the scenes at the top, just because
That's like
well, I mean, first of all, this is where you subvert the legendary sword trope. Like, legendary swords are as ancient as old English myths of, like, Excalibur and stuff like that. Where the Monado is the sword that you use throughout the game is evil. It is the sword of the final god that wishes to destroy you and all that you hold dear.
That is, yeah. I would say that it does subvert a lot of tropes in the end. It's a deconstruction of the chosen hero trope. It subverts the chosen sword trope, and there's a lot of tropes that gets a bit twisted on its head. Although, in the end, still use a lot of tropes and just use them different ways. So
yeah.
Which, I mean, we all know tropes aren't bad,
yeah,
right?
tropes are never ever
tropes
bad.
are never a bad thing. It's just it's how you execute on those tropes.
And remember, cliches are popular because something good was happening.
They're cliches for a reason, yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the mechanics core, jeez, that's just...
Yeah.
It just hits you and hits you and
Like,
it keeps
yeah.
going.
Yeah,
when I first saw that, like my reaction, like after that scene was over, I would just like pace around like, whoa, that just happened.
Yeah, this is the scene where everyone kind of like doesn't process what's going on at all.
Yeah.
Where everything kind of goes off haywire, and then you have to. The game is really interesting because it gives like exposition about what happened, what really happened all those years ago when the Bios and the Mechons were fighting, and who Zanza is, and clarifying so many questions.
Yeah.
And just as like you're just barely trying to process, it throws you into a fight, and you're playing as Fiora with Mayneth's Monado, and Mayneth is the other god, the soul of the Mechonus. And
Although you can't really die against that fight.
well, yeah, you can in New Game Plus actually.
Wait, you can? Wait, you mean?
Because
wait. You don't. You don't have unbeatable 6.
6 gems. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I forgot about that.
What? I missed it. What'd you say?
I said that you couldn't die against that fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think you could. 'Cause it's
I
just...
was sweating buckets at that point because, like, oh, I never used Fiora. Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're fine.
And then I realized,
Sounds
hey,
about right.
actually, I have unbeatable 6. No big deal.
Yeah, you're fine. But the scenario is super tense because it's almost a shove in the face, because I don't think... Wait, Zanza doesn't have Monado... Does Zanza have Monado Eater and Armor? If you don't choose to get those optional arts, does anyone know?
I never got them. I don't think I ever seen him at all.
I think I've seen him use Monado Eater.
No, I really don't know.
I know he
Maybe-
uses them in
I'm
the
gonna
final battle.
look it up right now. Because I don't remember him ever having... okay, so he has Monado left, Monado right, Monado cross 8, Monado recover, Monado fear, Monado brave.
That sounds like his moveset from the end of the game, the final boss, not
Check the one in the
Mechanics core boss.
Mechanic score? Okay.
Yeah, jeez. I
Okay.
mean,
that
one
whole
scene
game-
ends with the Mechanics alive, and then the other scene ends with the Mechanics gone. It's just craziness in there.
And then it's like when like Zanza takes the Monado and just like transforms into the third Monado, not third Monado, the Monado 3. It's it's just really cool.
Oh yeah, his absurdly huge, evil,
Yeah.
demon god blade. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like...
Oh, he doesn't have any of those. He just has Monado shield, Eater. Oh, he has Eater. Yeah.
Oh, he has Eater, okay.
But he has Buster and Brave.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of how the sword changes over time. So like
Yeah,
you have
it
like
is.
the basic Monado, and then it becomes when this huge moment in Prison Island happens, you get the Monado 2, which it like feels like a bigger broadsword or something like that.
I like the sharp point and like can actually hurt Mechon, like
Yeah,
face Mechon.
yeah, like hurt like all the humans. And then when when it transforms into Zanza's Monado, you freak out because you remember how powerful you felt when you got the Monado 2. And now this is ascended to something even greater than that, and you realize, what have I gotten myself into?
Because now it's being used on you.
And then you have to use the what's the first one called? The Monado.
The replica Monado?
Yeah, replica Monado. Like, and there's like but you
Well,
use like
that
the replica
dinky little
Monado.
thing.
Yeah.
I never
Monado.
bothered to make the other Monado, Ruda, Monado, Abyss, Monado, etc. I never bothered
Yeah.
to make them until New Game Plus. Oops.
I love the Monado Abyss so much.
I know.
That's
I
funny
made
because
those-
it was one of my
I never
friends' names.
figured out like which one would be the best, I guess.
Rudra. Well, I don't like using the Saga or the Dogma, which are when it comes to replica Monados. I don't like using Monado Saga, Monado Dogma because they only have 2 gem slots. My favorite of the
Right.
of the remaining 3, Agni, Rudra, and Abyss. I like using the Abyss more just because I like having Shulk outfitted for critical hits.
In general,
Sounds
Shulk
right.
is just good for critical hits.
Yeah, he has a decently high critical chance, and if you can exploit that with critical gems and stuff like that, he becomes a monster. I think at the end of my my 100% run, he had a 65% crit rate.
Dang.
Although he ain't as powerful as Chrono from Chrono Trigger, who can go up to 90% in the DS remake.
Actually, because I remember hearing this is still an issue. Just something curious about gameplay wise. What is it? The attack damage
stability.
rate, is that actually a bug that's in the game?
Yes, yeah. So the way damage is calculated is it has a range of a low and a high, right? And the way you calculate the in between numbers is you roll for those numbers. The way the game calculates it, though, is it only rolls from 0 to 99. So you'll never get more than 99 above the lowest value.
So if your attack is like 400 to 510, it'll cap at 499.
Basically.
Okay. I didn't know that. Like, I mean, I hear about it, but I'm like, really? Or like, it's a bug that's just in there?
Yeah, I don't know if it was fixed in the 3DS remake or not.
People
but,
say both ways, which I don't know. I didn't really spend too much time with the 3DS version. I have it, but that Circle Pad Pro is that second Circle Pad just kills my enthusiasm for the game. I can live with the lower frame rate and graphics because I play on a Switch compared to playing on a PC sometimes, but that second nub is unbearable. Like, I would take the Joy-Cons over the Circle Pad any day of the weekend. Although I really like the Joy-Cons, so yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and then the Mykonos Core is a very important scene just because it shows like what kind of subject matter specifically the game's going to be finishing off with. This is at the end of the story. It's a story about at the end of the story you realize that above anything else, above all the religion, above all the revenge plots, like the politics of the world, this is a story about gods and creation myths.
Yeah.
God and creation and basically how humanity became it's just like humanity's hubris led to the downfall of humanity and then builds back up.
Well, I mean, that's a big theme of the Xeno series as a whole.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
And like at this point in the story, you kind of like figure out that like Alvis and like
yeah. Well,
Dorothea,
not even. Well, yeah. So like the whole idea of there being
the disciples of Zenza.
Yeah, the disciples of Zanza and everything, and like being like slightly like being progressively more betrayed, more horrified when these people like the high end said the people that you've grown to know be turned into the monsters that you fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrifying experience through and through.
Yep.
But it all like, and then you go back and then you kind of build up to the final boss, and then you fight Dixon in honestly one of my favorite scenes in the entire game, solely because of the symbolism present in Dixon's fight. I mean, we're kind of skipping over Lorothea's fight, but just Are we okay skipping that one?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a horrible fight. I didn't have too much trouble with it.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't find it too interesting.
No, neither
Yeah,
do I. I don't think it's like a nightmare that people make it out to be, but I find it a nightmare in describing it because it's just so dull.
Yeah, I like the
Like, I
ending
mean-
though with Callian.
I can understand.
Yeah,
like,
and then Lorthia got slapped off to the face of the earth. Well, I mean, the face of Bionis.
I mean, I can understand, like, yeah, the poison pools and people accidentally stepping in it because they're dumb.
At least
But
you have
I
at least you have a call towards you feature. Oh, like Xenoblade
Yeah.
2 base game.
I never had issues with Orthia's Pharmacy where so when I first found out she was the problem a lot of people had, I'm like, really?
Yeah, I was the same. I was the same deal, but that's not.
And no
right
offense to
there.
those people, of course. I was surprised.
I don't doubt those people for a second. It's just that it's a bit, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and then
after Dixon,
oh, no, Prison Island and Dixon.
then you enter the memory space,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and then that's like a
oh,
big
that's-
what is going on?
I do. I want to touch one more thing before the end of Dixon's fight. At the end of the game, were you sentimental or did you still hate Dixon?
I still hated him.
I mean, like, he's kind of like other characters in JRPGs where, like, they're portrayed as a bad guy. Like, they're a bad character, like a bad guy in the story. But, like, in the end, you kind of, like, feel sorry for them or, like, kind of feel, like, bad for them in a way.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
I
I mean-
always liked Dixon.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, yeah,
from the beginning.
I can't really decide that right now.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I always enjoyed him as like Shulk's mentor, father figure, and all that stuff throughout the entire game. Every time Dixon popped up in the scene, I'm like, "Hey, there's my buddy."
Yeah,
And even
yeah,
even when
at
he went
first-
bad, I'm like, "Oh,
yeah. At first,
Damn it,
I
why?
like. At first I thought he's pretty cool, and then after he realized that he was manipulating everyone, and all the way to the end on his own volition, it's like this guy is a monster. He's like, no, Dixon dies? Huh, serves you right.
I'm gonna offer one little bit of idea that I like about Dixon is that Dixon is implied to be a giant.
He is a giant.
Yeah, he is the giant, right? That's how he's portrayed. But I find it interesting that he chooses to die as alms.
Yeah, that was like I like how like he just like kind of sat down, lit a cigarette, and like I don't remember what he said, but he said like some things about Shulk, and then like
Yeah, he mentions how the student had finally surpassed the teacher.
yeah, the student has found yeah, that's what he said.
It feels
yeah,
kind
he
of like.
accepted it.
Yeah, no, go.
It kind
is.
of also like shows like oh yeah.
So
He's shown a bit more like a human side to him, I guess, but he's still a sociopath, or actually is it even a word? More like a psycho sort of. Still kind of like one, so it's like
I don't know. Like he seems pretty sane. Like he's not.
he is sane, just that he's more like a blood knight, if that makes any sense. He's like he didn't really care about Dumban or Mumkar or anyone else.
But did he? That's the question. Like he grew up with Shulk for Shulk was like 3 or 4 when he lost his parents. So he was raising Shulk for So he was raising Shulk for about 14 years. He's raising Shulk for a good 14 years. So he has to have some connection to the guy, right? And that is shown at the end of the game where
He also had a connection to Dumban for a longer time, and look at how that's just thrown away.
Well, yeah, but having a friend connection is different from a familial connection.
That's fair.
Because I mean, Dixon was also Shulk's mentor. He taught him how to make weapons. He taught him how to learn about them, how to study the Monado. He taught him a lot of what Shulk knows and what lets him go forward in his life. And we don't see that side of Dixon too often, but that is definitely there. I feel like that'd be if Xenoblade was ever getting an anime, I'm sure they would emphasize like a kid scene with Shulk and Dixon as like a way to make us feel bad.
They probably would have added something extra.
Yeah. But I don't know. I find Dixon a very interesting character to look at because he doesn't have a moral black or white. He just
wants to fight. He's literally just a blood knight in my view. He just wants to fight, and Zanza provided that.
He does have that worldview. Yeah, and then the end of the game comes. Then you fight
Yeah.
Zanza, and
Oh,
basically
before
all-
that, you fight a gauntlet of enemies in memory space while you stare at like, hey, that's Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, what?
Yeah, that's so. One of my favorite things about Xenoblade is, this is I think it's mostly only shown in Xenoblade 1, but like, if you see it in a cutscene, you go there. Like, no exceptions. Even when like it shows Shulk just floating into space, like during like a dream or something, you literally go to space. And like, there's only like one exception, which is like the bite on his shoulder, which is like that
was cut.
yeah, cut area that was not even in the final game. But like, if you see it in the cutscene, you go there. It's really cool.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Yeah,
They did show that
that's a
area
good point.
before.
See
it
that
was
mountain?
pretty
You
wild.
can
It's
go
like-
there.
It's like, why am I in the solar system? What's going on? That's
Yeah,
the moon.
and that's supposed to. And at first it's like, well, actually, by that point anything can happen. So you're left wondering what's going on. So you continue on, and then you beat Zanza. After you beat Zanza, you figure out the catalyst for the entire game. And
Yeah,
I just
how
like
the
that
world
scene
came
where
to
the
be.
characters are looking at the Earth and they're like, it's like a ball of water, and I'm like, oh my gosh!
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
that part right there.
yeah,
Even-
it's
I
not
think
it's not
right
it's done
before
with
that.
very intentional purposes.
Yeah,
And that's another thing. Everything in Xenoblade 1 feels intentional. Everything feels like it contributes to the greater whole of the game until and
There's
when
no
it comes to its
filler.
plot. Yeah,
Filler, I could say that for sure.
which is something I can't say about the other two.
Nah, the other two have some filler. Actually, X has barely any filler. 2 has some filler in Chapter 4, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
yeah. Like the very ending of Xenoblade 1, like that's like when the game like literally explains everything. Like any questions you have, like it explains it mostly.
Yeah. 1 is very, very self-contained, and there's very little loose ends to be had.
And that's why when they came to future games, they either didn't make it. They either put the little ties, but didn't make it directly tied at all, or made it in parallel to Xenoblade 1.
Or you can just
We'll
have
get to
it
that
set,
later.
like thousands of years later.
Yeah. But yeah. So the end of the game is, of course, there's you fight Zanza. Zanza like explains his worldview about him being a god, so everything is insignificant. How he wants to recreate the world. Then Shulk awakens to the to his Monado, the Monado of his soul. Which is foreshadowed earlier when Vinaya mentions that the Monado is the light of every person.
Yep.
And it's also like extremely like I've heard some people actually have heard people who complain about like it feels like it comes out of nowhere when I feel like it was pretty well foreshadowed with the ability of Shulk being able to see the future without.
Yeah, without even having the Monado, he can
And
see
Albus mentions the true Monado like
The true
3 or 4
Monado,
times
yeah.
throughout the
If
entire
you can
game.
find
Yeah.
the true
Like-
Monado.
If
Yeah, I
you
feel
missed
like
all that, then I guess you'd see it as like, oh, it came out of nowhere, but it's
Yeah.
been there
I feel-
since the beginning.
I feel like it was very well foreshadowed. I don't understand what people didn't get
Yeah.
about that, but I remember all I just remember when I saw that scene was, oh my god!
I know. Like that whole like final boss, like where you have to like I remember like it shows like the scene of like Shulk with like his Monado just like pointed at like Zen's like I will not be your vessel anymore or something like that. Like yeah, that whole boss is like so good.
Yes.
Final
That
boss.
scene where they're pointing their swords at each other and Shulk
It's very, very well
with all his
choreographed.
emotion, he's like, what is it he says? I just want to live my life as a
As
Homs in a
mom,
world without
in a world
you.
without Juju.
Shut up.
I love the YouTube poops, but yeah,
I love that part. It's so amazing.
yeah.
And then like that whole scene like today we use our power to fell a god.
And then
And
seize our destiny.
Yeah, and then like that's when he gets like the final art on his Monado.
Yep.
And like the god slaying art basically. The god slaying sword. That's the name of the song.
Yeah, the music, the area, everything with that final boss fight is so cool.
I know, it's just so cool.
It is a great final boss. Although I said before that I had some problems with Zanza, I felt like that after the entire scene with Mechanic's Core, which was really, really cool, I sat back for a bit and was like, this is what we're getting of God? And it's like, after Ego, who is a lot more interesting, I thought, I don't know, Zanza felt a bit like a step backwards in a few areas.
Well, it depends on where you are in JRPGs, right? So at this point, when I first saw Xenoblade 1, I wasn't very well versed in the tropes of JRPGs. I didn't know that killing a kind of god was a very common trope. I mean, Final Fantasy VI does it, Xenogears does it, Shin Megami Tensei does it. I wasn't very well versed in that. So when I saw that, I thought it was fresh, new, exciting. And to be fair, even if you are well versed, it's a different play on the this trope. Where
it's still different enough, and it does it very well, which is like and there's a big good argument about how execution matters above all else, which is like another point I made about Xenoblade being better at Xenogears 4 because of the execution is way better. So it's like I don't know, it may feel a bit hypocritical, but something about Zanza rubbed me the wrong way. So it may sound like a hypocritical statement, and I accept that, but that's just how I felt about Zanza. And I don't know, I just don't like him as much as Ego did. And it kind of brought down the finale for me. Although, I will say, the cutscenes are still very well choreographed. And it's very hype-inducing.
I've written a YouTube comment essay defending the final boss of Xenoblade 1, so I really like it, in case it's not clear.
No, he's totally cool. But actually, the weird thing about Zanza, though, the thing that I find weird about him, is that you never actually fight him as, like, the small angel god human thing. Like, you only ever fight him as the giant manifestation of the world, which is cool.
Bionis and Mechonis.
Yeah. I just think it's odd that you never actually got to fight him, like, aside from as Fiora in that brief, like, cutscene fight. And I'm like, I thought I would fight him.
Well, at that point, he had 2 Monados.
Yeah, he had 2 Monados, one in each hand.
And another thing is that it's implied that he actually would have fought you like that if he wasn't able to see the future, or whatever, because it's shown when Xander sees himself in a vision, he fights himself in that angel form in front of Shulk and the others, but he realizes that he should probably create a form to him that would be more powerful, and that's why he creates himself as the combination of the 2 worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with it. I just thought it was interesting that there is no fight in game against Tiny Zanza, but
I know a lot of people thought it'd be a very personal fight against Shulk and Zanza because Zanza looks so much like Shulk. Honestly, I didn't feel like that was a necessary part of Zanza's character. But if you take issue with that, then we can have a discussion or whatever.
I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah. All right, and then we see okay, and then we see the end of the game. Alvis reveals himself as the computer that runs the world because yes, this is all a game about philosophy, so we have to have existentialism in there somewhere, where everything is basically in our a physics-based computer where kind of basically where so the word monad, where the monado comes from, basically originates from an ancient Greek idea that there's the most indivisible particle of the entire universe is called the monad. Mm-hmm. So with monado, you're literally bending the shape of the universe to your will, using the fabric of the universe. And
Albus is that monado.
Albus is literally the embodiment of this collective idea of the monado.
Yep.
Yep.
And that is the third huge plot twist. I characterize the game by how it's laid out. The first plot twist being Prison Island, the second plot twist being Mechonis Core, the third plot twist being after you kill Zanza.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are that's how you divide the acts up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if the last act is super short.
Yeah, I never would have guessed what Alvis was. I don't even know if I had any theories going into the finale, but
I've had so many times
computer was not in my head.
Nah.
I've had so many times when I've talked to people and I've wanted to tell them that Alvis when he fights by your side says resistance is futile, which is the famous line that the dwarves say in Star Trek. No, Star Trek. Star Trek Next Generation.
Okay. I thought
Get your science fiction.
Okay. Oops.
No. Resistance is futile is the best of both worlds episode, which is the 2-parter of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And the other line that Alvis says is, "I'm sorry, I can't let you do that." Or no, he says,
I know.
Which is a reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey, which in general, 2001 is a huge inspiration for the Xeno series as a whole
because it has the monolith.
Yeah, the Monolith. And heck, Monolith Soft is based off of the Monolith in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Pretty much.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
So,
I think like it's also really cool how like they kind of foreshadow a little bit like by saying Alvis is the seer of the Hyantia.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Hyantia, but he's a Homs. But like
they
he's a
also
seer and he can see the future.
They also talk about like
he never explicitly says he's a Homs.
no,
Oh yeah, well,
they also meant no. I've rewatched the scenes very recently. Before they enter the Hyantia tomb, in the first half of the game, Shulk asks about Alvis's family history, and Alvis responds, "I'm not going to go into that right now. My family history is quite complicated."
Whose isn't?
Well, no, but like he has a family history.
Actually, that has a totally different meaning after Xenoblade 2. I guess.
Sure.
yeah,
I guess maybe.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
That's
Yeah.
true, actually, yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Wait. That's assuming you buy into the theory, which I do. But we'll get to
Yeah,
that. We'll get
yeah,
to that when we get to Xenoblade 2.
MB's shown me. I think I know which one you're talking about, but MB's shown me.
Yeah. We'll get to that when we get to Xenoblade
Interesting.
2.
Yeah. Okay, so we saw like presentation and music, right?
Oh.
Yeah, so
we spent so long on the story because the story's
That's
that
like an
good,
hour.
dude.
I don't mind it. We'll probably go through the other stories a little bit faster, but Xenoblade 1's story is so influential for the rest of the series that I feel like devoting this much time, devoting 1 hour and 11 minutes to this was warranted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
this is still the best.
And the
this
ending
by-
is just great.
Yeah.
So
this is still the best story in the entire Xeno series, in my opinion.
again, I personally think this is the best story execution in the series. I think
Absolutely agree with that because on paper, Xenogears beats out Xenoblade in every way. It's just that
as does Xenosaga, I feel, but
although okay, I never played Xenosaga, but I really want to.
it's really interesting stuff. But we're not going to go into that right now.
Nah, we're
But yeah, so it has the best execution by far. It flows well. It's tightly paced. It keeps you guessing, and it always betrays your expectations, creating a kind of thrill whenever a big scene comes up. So let's just touch on the gameplay real quick. Gameplay is very similar to Western-based MMOs, where everything is real time. There's auto attacks, and what you control is your positioning around the enemy and the abilities that you use called arts.
Yeah, which are like on a hot bar, quick bar, whatever.
Yeah. Which
Like-
and then you work, and then your other two party members are on AI, and the AI is overall pretty good. There are a lot of issues with.
I think it's among the best AI actually, because it totally creams over X's AI, which is garbage.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless you're talking Melia.
and Shulk's AI is dumb. Hey guys, I'm gonna use Monado Enchant, even though you guys have anti-Mechon weapons.
I think Monado Chan actually gives you a slight damage buff. I need to look up the stats on that later.
Auto attacks only.
Auto attack, yeah. So,
You're not gonna use auto attacks much though. You're gonna just focus on spamming the crap out of Gale Slashes, etc.
Well, you kind of do need it sometimes in order to get your talent arts
for your talent arts, but then later on you get abilities like Shulk, who gets a huge talent boost when you get a vision.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, that makes his Monado instantly usable again.
yeah. I mean, it's a pretty pretty self-explanatory system. If
very
you've ever
simple.
played,
Very simple to get accustomed to. It's very easy to get into. I think this is the easiest combat system in the entire series, next to Torna. Actually, I think
yeah, I know.
Torna is easier. Actually,
Yeah, it's very clear what's going on. Then there's also the little twist of the vision system where
This is unique to Xenoblade 1.
yeah, this is somewhat unique to Xenoblade 1 because there's DLC stuff going on in 2, but the way it works is if an enemy is going to use an attack that would either kill a party member or devastate their effects, the game will warn you about it and it will let you react accordingly. Now, sometimes this might mean inflicting status effects like topple and daze to completely either pause or shatter the vision, or you can create buffs to prevent that the damaging effects from happening. And the game gives you all the tools to do it. You just need to make sure you have the planning. Xenoblade 1's combat system is very much using the right arts in the right order, and then reacting with buffs and stats effects when things go wrong.
Mm-hmm. This is one aspect where I'll give Xenoblade 1 credit over X and 2, because between 1, X, and 2 and Torna, this has the best defensive and support game. Because if you want to play defensively in X, there's like no point because you're soloing anyway, so who cares? And 2 has basically like an almost completely non-existent defensive game. It's very focused on offense, and I like offense the most, so I wasn't too affected, but 1 is the most well-rounded of the 4.
Well, I mean, in 2, it's not so much defense as it is more aggro-based. Like, in 2, it's very much keeping a certain person with the aggro and just hope they have enough HP to tank everything.
Yeah, which I think is inferior to Xenoblade 1, actually. Despite me really liking X and 2's gameplay more than 1, that's one big positive of 1's gameplay that I think should be commended for.
Well, a thing about Xenoblade 1 is the reason why the defensive game works so well is because there's multiple routes you can take with that. You can either jack up a character's agility to make them unhittable, or you can make the character resistant to magic attacks specifically, or make them resistant to physical attacks, or just jack up their HP so that way they're just a sponge. Mm-hmm. There's a variety of different aspects you can take. It also applies to how the game handles armor, which is something that was dropped in Xenoblade 2. The game has light, medium, and heavy armor, and the type of armor that you can equip will correspond to certain stats. Like heavy armor is going to increase your defense but lower your agility.
It'll change your character's like appearance and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm speaking more stat-wise. The amount of the specific equipment that you can equip is dependent on what skills you have. Which is another big part of combat where you have to have the skills and skill links so everything works in tandem.
Oh, yeah, because all the characters can learn specific passive and active skills, and then you can actually later in the game get the ability to have other characters use other characters' passive and active skills.
Yeah,
which is kind of like
pretty
this
good
web
customization.
Yeah. Like the characters are on linear progression systems, but the characters themselves are in linear progression systems where they can only learn so much stuff. But it's the cross between the two and how they affect each other that really gives the gameplay depth.
Only problem is that's locked behind affinity.
Yes, well, I mean, affinity grinding in general is an issue that
plagues every single game except Torna.
Yeah.
Well, actually, X is debatable. We'll get to X later, but 1 and 2 have the worst.
X is more generous with its affinity, but Xenoblade 1 is really stingy with its affinity, that's for sure.
Yeah, and 2 is even worse with that. But we'll get into that later. That's our catchphrase. That's our
raising
catchphrase.
affinity and Xenoblade 1 was interesting. That's just because I spent so much time playing the game as Shulk. And then everyone's like, oh, I should probably increase the affinity of the other people.
That's one thing Xenoblade as a whole is really good about. You can switch out the main character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
If you don't like Shulk, just switch him out. You're going to have a harder time, though, because this is one other thing that will knock Xenoblade 1 and X4 compared to Xenoblade 2 is that it feels like the game was just really, really designed around Shulk on your first playthrough, and switching to anyone else.
Yeah, for your first playthrough, you can create builds. You can create builds for Dunban and Melia that are stronger than Shulk, I feel, but
on your first playthrough, it just feels like the Shulk playthrough, and newcomers are going to be trapped into using Shulk and Charlotte the entire way through, which will really drag down the combat. Which is a big shame, because if you break out of Shulk and Charlotte cores, then the combat is a lot better. But just
a big thing is just that, like, the Shulk, Charlotte, and Ryan, those are very straightforward characters in how they operate.
Yeah.
But characters like Ricky, which is like a jack of all trades, characters like Melia, who's a very weird play style, but once you get used to it,
Melia is the best character in the game. She's the only reason why I can really play Xenoblade 1.
I like to use her in battle a lot. It's fun.
Melia's the best character in the game.
I still like using Shulk just because I like having the control over reactionary effects.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get wrong with them. I'm also a big fan of Dunban just because of how his art chains work. Where his arts are meant to be chained together in specific combos. So like a good combo is Gale Slash into Tempest Kick into Steel Strike, which will basically topple the enemy if you get all the effects off. Which not many characters can topple themselves on their own, especially early on, which makes Dumbman pretty unique.
Dumbman is like really, really good too. Melia, Dumbman, and Fiora are my end game team that I really, really like.
Yeah, Fiora is also really good for sure. But the great thing about Fiora is that you can make her whatever you want.
Yeah, with like agility armor.
She's like a Bionicle.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
All right, so
another good thing about the gameplay is side quests. I mean, even though there were so many,
actually,
they actually got me into side quests, like the gameplay. Like I never really been too much of a fan of side quests, but
so the thing about Xenoblade 1 is that I feel personally that the generic quests are exactly what they sound like: generic busy work fetch quests. I like here's the pros. I'll list what I think are the pros of the quest system. The stories for the later quests are really, really good. I feel like they're probably some of the best side stories in the series. I like how it's organized. I think the quest log is extremely efficient. I think that I like how I like the rewards at getting experience and extremely valuable equipment and gems and stuff like that for getting doing quests. Like doing the quests themselves, like going through them, there is value in doing them, just beyond just seeing the side stories. Like the rewards are very much worth it. The cons, though, is just that there are too many of them.
Like over 400, I think.
There's too many of them. There is so many timed quests, which is another black mark of 1 against X and 2 in Torda, which I really, really despise, the time quest system.
The game is very upfront about the fact that they're going to expire.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's just a big, giant halt on your progression.
Yeah. Well,
the time quests are timed for a reason. Everything in the game is
absolutely.
made for the story in mind.
The game chooses to put the story over the side quest, which I fully agree with that philosophy.
I don't necessarily say it's a bad move. It's just that this is not something I'm comfortable with. So this is something I'm not gonna really get down with. You know.
Heck, on my first playthrough, I realized as I was playing the game, I had no problem with doing quests in Colony 9 and Colony 6 and whatever. It was when I got to Frontier Village that I was like, oh my gosh, these are too many. And that was where I got kind of tapered off it, and I started doing less. And
Frontier Village is just absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Frontier Village and Akamov are the two worst areas. God, I hate running around those places. Period.
Agneritha had a bunch from all those robots.
Agneritha didn't have a lot.
They're centralized. They're a centralized hub.
Yeah. So there's not much NPCs wander around, and oh my god, the draw distance in Xenoblade 1 is terrible. And it's really, really bad. Even in the enclosed area, like the refugee camp, it's incredibly shallow.
Yeah, there's only some quests you can find during the day, some quests you can only find during the night.
Which makes finding them such a pain.
Yeah.
You have to look up a guide, and this is that's my biggest problem with Xenoblade 1, the side quests and how they just require you to get a guide just to even find them. That's no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do all the quests.
You don't have to do that.
I think if people put themselves through the effort of doing all the quests, then complain about the quests, it's like you did that to yourself.
Yeah.
But I do get what you mean by maybe the draw distance causes some quest givers to not spawn.
Yeah,
but I didn't really have that much of an issue with it in 1. X, on the other hand, was stupid with it and didn't do it right at all.
X is so bad with it too. I'm not going to defend X about that.
It's ridiculous. I literally ran around where the quest giver was, and he just wouldn't appear. I looked it up.
Yeah,
even with the data patch installed?
Didn't spawn there. I had one of the patches installed. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, X is terrible with it. The only bright side is that the map tells you if you did the quest already in that area. So if you're looking for a guide, just look at the gamepad map. But we'll get to
I didn't really mind so much that because the generic quests in Xenoblade 1, there were a lot, but I think 99% of those generic quests auto-completed, if not all of them. Mm-hmm. Which is great. So you accomplish the objective and it's done.
That is also true.
Yeah, it was very much like you accept them and you just it's very much like do them if you can, but don't worry if you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the only real issue that I had with quests, as far as like, aside from just being like, I'll do these later, and then I passed Alchemoth and I didn't complete Alchemoth my first playthrough because everything died. But like for some quests, it's like when they want you to return to a specific quest giver, you can consult the affinity chart, but it just doesn't give you an exact enough location for them.
That's
which
another big problem with
the issue with a few of the specific areas. I can't remember which ones, but there was some areas I had a lot of trouble with trying to remember where the quest givers are, because some of them do move around depending on what you've done, so on and so forth. But that was my biggest deal with it. Aside from that, it was like, I'll do the quest if I want to. Except when I was on like my second playthrough, I'm like, might as well do as many as I can.
I gave up on the side quest after Alchemoth. Because after Alchemoth was like, okay, I am not going anywhere due to this bad draw distance. I'm just gonna blow through the story. And then I got to Machina Village, the Fallen Arm, and I was like, I'll do a little bit here and there, but then I was still kind of very, very burnt out from doing the side quest from the refugee camp, which is the last place that I really, truly went after the side quest.
So I'm assuming you didn't complete Colony 6?
I completed Colony 6 very much later on in a New Game Plus run. But during my first playthrough, I was like, this is just tedious. I'm not.
For my first playthrough, I never figured out what that room in Alchemoth was. The one that has the bouncer standing outside, that club. I never got to go in there.
Oh!
In my first playthrough of the game, I never completed the Red Pollen side quest.
Oh,
never.
That one?
Because I just didn't pick it up.
That was like that's one of my favorite quests in that game.
Yeah, I mean, like to be like okay, so that's a good point. So a big thing about the great side quests is that a lot of them are barred behind affinity requirements. So affinity is between your party members, but it's also between the party and the location that you're in. And there's 5 different locations.
Right.
A lot of the best quests are barred behind affinity requirements, and sometimes you don't want to do all the generic quests. I mean, I do because I love this game, but for the average player, I can imagine they wouldn't want to. And if you do, then you're going to miss out on a lot of the best rewards. Like you're going to miss out on skill branches, which are unlockable and have some of the best skills in the game. Mm-hmm. Art books, you're going to miss out on a lot of story, a lot of great equipment. Some of the best tales
development.
Yeah, some of the best stories in the game is the Red Pollen Orb, which brings a darker side, which begins the darker trend of the Nopon in Xenoblade, where they're like these secretly they're like a very manipulative species that. In this case, there's an entire drug ring, which is based around their natural resource called red pollen orbs, which are very addictive. Basically,
so
just imagine
insane to say out loud, but it's true.
and then there's of course the racist Hyentia, where Hyentia that are born pure have larger wings, and those that are born with who are half Homs and half Hyentia, they have half wings, basically. Where
although that's kind of subverted later on with Tyrea, I believe.
The thing about Tyrea is just that I feel like Tyrea is like the way you resolve that story, where it's like brings like it shows how little those differences matter in the long run. But
then it kind of flies in the face of, hey, all half Homs, half Entia are these, etc.
Well, I mean, it's meant to be a little bit more like not everything's meant to have a hard rule, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, although it just still feels a bit contradictory in hindsight.
All right, so I'm probably going to bring it the end of the discussion of the gameplay. Let's talk real quick. Art design, the art style. I find the art style to be absolutely captivating. It's
the concept art, yeah, but in game it looks like a PS2 game with
like
draw
I
distance.
disagree.
Oh yeah, the first couple minutes you kind of have to get used to it, but like other than that, it looks really good.
Yeah, so the textures are fuzzy, and they are, especially on the model, the human models, they're a little hard to get used to.
Yeah.
However, when I'm looking at the game today, after I've played this game since 2015, so I've known about the game since 2014, so this will be like my 4th year of looking at the game as is on an original Wii. I find the game to be absolutely gorgeous to look at, especially if you're doing it from vista points, which are specific. Like the engine feels optimized to provide vistas, and the tech used to animate the models is actually quite impressive as well. there's a lot of little moving pieces here and there that you don't really that isn't really apparent in many other models. I mean, it's no Final Fantasy 13, but
I mean, Final Fantasy 13 is probably a standard you should get away from.
yeah. Well, I mean, the graphics are at least nice in that game,
Fair
but
enough.
I mean, I find it does its job well, and it has absolutely breathtaking, beautiful moments, and it also has a very excellent direction in visual effects. And what I mean, like the lights, the particles, stuff like that. I feel like the way that they're used is extremely well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite places in the game to go is the I forgot the landmark location, but it's the top of the fallen arm, like the very tip of the fingertip.
The radiocarpia, right?
Yeah. Up there, I could just like sit, like go there, listen to the music, and just like
Oh, and you can see the entire hand down below?
just like look. You can see the entire hand, and you look up and see the entire Bionis, the entire Mechonis. It's just so cool. Like, just I would like stand there for like like 10 minutes or like so, and then just like admire the music and just like it's just so cool.
At least, okay, in terms of environments, Xenoblade 1 still holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
This is the game that gave us Valak Mountain, Satoru Marsh, the great Magna
Satoru Marsh
Falls.
still looks great, even with the Wii's limitations, it still looks fantastic.
Oh no, yeah, no, Satoru Marsh is breathtaking. I feel like
it's still my favorite area in the entire game.
Valak Mountain is also extremely breathtaking. I feel like Agniratha holds up. The Great Magna Falls, that view from the bridge is fantastic.
For sure.
Although, really, the main reason why I said it looks like a PS2 game is the character models. I just feel like they didn't translate the concept art very well into the.
I disagree. I think the character models are adequate. It's the textures that are problematic.
I never had any issue with the presentation of the characters. When I first got the game, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't care
like,
in the end because I mean I still play on games from the NES, but I don't know. It's just it doesn't really translate. I didn't feel like it translated the concept arts into the game itself very well. Oh, that's just how I feel.
But I mean, but on that note, though, the concept art had a very watercolor aesthetic design, right? It's not like a super strict design. It's very more a paint feel, and I feel like that actually was translated quite well into the game, especially the environments. It has it's hard to describe, but there is a painted feel there, where it feels like a 3D canvas in a way.
I can see that. I'm picturing Magna Forest, and yeah, I can see it.
Because like a lot of the limitations of paint is that like you're gonna have a little bit more edginess to it, and well, that's what the Wii does. It gives you edges if you're gonna create big environments. So if anything, I feel like they tried the best to use the Wii hardware limitations to its advantage, and I feel like overall it succeeded with flying colors.
Yeah. For the tech available, it's definitely very impressive.
Yeah. If I could have changed one thing, I just would have made the textures high resolution. I would not change anything else.
So
honestly.
You played on Dolphin.
Yeah. Well, I've actually looked at the HD texture pack, and honestly, it's hit or miss with me. I find that I do like the higher resolution on like the environments, but I don't like the faces. I actually kind of like the blurry effect of the eyes now that I'm used to it. But that's
yeah, I agree.
As someone who didn't like them at first and had to get used to them, it's definitely a jarring thing. It's an acquired taste.
Oh, we want our bad thing back. Just kidding. I'm just kidding about that.
I just don't really like that, because I've seen two people play the game blind, and both of them have done it through Dolphin with the HD texture pack, and my issue with that, of course, is just that they have to come out and say, like, it's just, you gotta play it like this because it looks better, and just be kind of direct and insulting about it to people who played it the basic way.
I played this game on the Wii U, and it was fine. Absolutely fine.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot you could do that.
That's what I did. I played on the Wii U Virtual Console.
Yeah, like
well, it's not really a virtual console. It's just an ISO because this is Wii U is backwards compatible. So
yeah. There's a faded feeling. All right. Last comments before we move on to music, and I'm just gonna make the music really short because let's be honest, we
did like the music very last, like with everything.
It's one of the best OSTs in gaming. It's ended at that. Done.
Favorite song, go.
I can't even choose.
Mechanical Rhythm. No, there is no choice. Mechanical Rhythm.
I guess the
for me,
final boss Zenza. I don't know. There's so
for
many.
me, I'm probably up there My sister would kill me if I didn't say McConaughey's Field. She loves McConaughey's Field.
That's a good one.
I also have to give a shout out to One Who Gets in Our Way. Love that one.
I love that song too.
Yeah,
That's
my
a good
sister
one.
and I, every
Xenoblade
time
one.
that I
Xenoblade
encounter a
one's-
boss with that game, we have to do the clap with it. We have to.
Unfinished Battle is a big one of mine, but I'm also big.
That's number 2.
Unfinished Battle is a personal favorite of mine. I'm also the other song I'm gonna have to give credit to is I've already mentioned the location many times, but I just absolutely adore everything Agniratha does.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very solemn.
Satoru Marsh Knight is my 3rd favorite track in the entire game.
Storm March
Yeah.
Knight is also really good.
I love like the vocal, like the subtle vocal themes into Satoru Mars. Like,
Yeah,
I also like the ending theme, Beyond the Sky. That's a good one.
Oh yeah.
that's a good one. Can't go wrong with Mitsuda.
Actually,
I
I
love
think it's
Beyond the
weaker.
Sky.
It's good, but I think it's the weakest compared to Small 2 Pieces and Long Last You, personally.
I have no idea what Small Two Pieces is.
That's the ending theme from
And-
Xenogears.
Yeah.
And you know what
guy.
X is?
Same guy.
Like your voice or something.
I
Actually,
love-
you know what? X is
I
the
think
worst.
they're all pretty darn good.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love the theme of just the vocal ending theme. It's like perfect for.
It's pretty good,
All-
but
all
I
Xenoblade games.
prefer everything else except X's last ending theme.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're ready to bring an end to the Xenoblade 1 discussion.
We've been talking about this for an hour and a half.
We're not making
This-
that 2 hour
We
mark,
might have
are
to
we?
extend like.
No, we're not
the-
making this for 2 hours. I hope you guys don't mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're
I
definitely.
mean, I
gonna
work
stay
tomorrow
longer.
at night, so I could go to sleep as late as I want.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're doing
Nice.
this as long as possible. All right, X time.
Sweet.
This
X
is my,
time, okay.
This is my favorite game in the entire series. This is
And this
so
is my
good.
least favorite, so this is gonna be
Oh
interesting.
man,
Oh,
this
no.
is totally my.
I mean,
this is
so-
totally my favorite game in the series. This is gonna be fun.
I mean, I don't not like it. I mean, it has its
So,
flaws,
okay,
but it's still
let's-
really
let's-
good compared to.
Let's start out with what who X is for. X is for people who either really like mechs, and believe me, I've met those people, or for the people who care about gameplay over story.
That's me.
I am neither of those people. But
I mean, I love mech,
so,
but
so I consider Xenoblade 1 a 10 out of 10. I would consider X an 8.5 out of 10 probably. It's
Oh
a,
jeez, that's generous.
Okay,
I
but,
apologize in
we have
advance.
mixed opinions here.
introductory statements, go.
okay. X is my 3rd favorite game of all time.
High praise.
I enjoyed it when I first played through it. Thought it was pretty good. What's the word? In retrospect, I was like, you know what? It didn't do anything right.
Look, okay, I'll say this one thing: X has more problems than 1 and 2 combined. But I still
I
love
would
it.
agree with that.
I still
So
love
I would
it more
agree
than
with
1 and
that.
2 because what it does right is hits me in the right spots. So
So for me, I loved the gameplay. It was fun.
Mhm.
The story, it wasn't like as good, but it's a good story for like a sci-fi kind of thing. It's a good story. I enjoy it.
Mhm.
But definitely not as much as Xenoblade 1s and 2s. So like I can't really compare it to 1 and 2 based on like story wise, but like it's a good game overall. And I just don't like it as much as Xenoblade 1 and 2. And just I enjoy it though. It's fun.
So, Annie's brought up a really good point, is that in retrospective, and I feel like X, how you can define X in my eyes is in retrospective, and that is perfect. Because I replayed the game this summer.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed playing it. I had a lot of fun with it.
It was fun.
It was fun. But,
there's a big but there.
my view of the game, I've played the game twice so far. Every time I look back on it, I don't remember it too fondly. And take another game. I know we use this game a lot. Xenogears. Xenogears has good combat, but you're honestly playing it mostly for the story.
Yeah.
I remember Xenogears extremely fondly. I want to go Xenogears all the time. I love that game, even if it's a super old game, even if its combat, even if its design is outdated, even if the dungeon design is atrocious. I remember that game more fondly than I'll ever remember Xenoblade Chronicles X, even though X is a stronger game.
Yeah.
What's the resolution of this? Remake Xenogears and Xenoblade Chronicles X's style. But that's not what we're here to discuss.
Actually, I would love that. If we took all the good from Xenoblade X and placed it into Xenogears, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, but that's not what we're here to discuss.
Nah.
We're here to discuss Xenoblade X. But that just goes to show that, like, how unremarkable I felt Xenoblade X had on me as a person. It's just, like, it doesn't... I don't remember it fondly. And I want to remember... I don't hate this game, and I want to remember it fondly. I've tried so many times. But every time I just think about, like, what it was like to play the game, it's a great feeling in time. I love to grind in RPGs. I love it. And if that was X... I call X a single-player MMO because you grind for so many materials in that game. It's ridiculous.
That's probably the game's biggest upside and drawback.
Exactly.
I mean, if they just knock down the requirements for some of the, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how much you need for something.
I need 3 of this extremely rare item that you should reach that can only be found at 12 o'clock in Caldros in this very specific location, and you need to teleport to this area 12 times in order to get one of them.
They made collectibles even worse than Xenoblade 1. How do you do that? And maybe, I mean, let me say this again. X is my 3rd favorite game of all time, but I'm still going to say it has more problems than 1 or 2 combined. Yeah,
X is a
very polarizing game. It's a very, very polarizing game. You're either gonna love it to death like I do, or you're gonna hate a lot of the dumb decisions they made.
Which there are a lot.
There are a lot of dumb decisions. I'm not gonna defend them.
What's sad is that I can imagine I can imagine remembering X fondly, and honestly, if everything was ideal, I probably would. The story behind this game, from what I understand, from what I've been able to put together, the game was started development I think in 2013, right? I think
around that. That was when it was announced. We heard it was announced in January 2013.
Yeah, so
just called X with the Xenogears
right,
X.
That's when it was announced, and Takahashi, the guy who directs all these Xeno games, that's pretty much their most defining thread. Takahashi creates the scenarios for all these games. Takahashi had created a script so involved that Takahashi created a script so involved that it was closer to a novel.
Sounds about right.
But halfway through development, X was scheduled to come out, I believe, in 2014?
Yeah, then it got delayed.
Yeah, it got delayed. So a big issue with that is the game became too ambitious. X had a bunch of different goals. One of them was to create the biggest world they can make on Wii U. And the other one was to create a really, really expensive science fiction story in the vein of Xenoblade 1 and Xenogears. They had to cut a lot of that ambition down when they delayed the game. They had to restructure a lot of it. This is when the creative protagonist came in. This is when a lot of the less prominent story details came in. Just because they were so focused on creating an open world, gameplay was the central message of this game.
Yeah.
So
that is an unfortunate thing because that's really Xenoblade X's biggest flaw. The story is very, very undercooked. What's there is good, but when you...
I feel like there could be so much more.
It takes so long.
It's episode 0.
I just realized that we everyone welcome Brandon. He's one of our guests. One of our guests today. He was a little bit late to the podcast, but now he's here and he's here to discuss games with us.
Yeah, we're stuck on a different planet now.
We're stuck on a different planet. A lot
we are indeed.
Manage.
Well, yes.
I want to get to Xenoblade X music. I love it. Yeah, well, see that.
Xenoblade X's OST is controversial opinion. I think it's my favorite of the 3. It's more. I
don't know.
Again, just like the game itself, it's more divisive because I know a lot of people who hate NLA themes. Okay, I'm gonna say flat out before we proceed. I love the NLA themes, unironically.
No, I even though I don't remember X super fondly, I remember the OST extremely fondly.
Yeah, it's good.
I wasn't really a big fan of like the ending theme or anything like that, but
nah, the ending theme is not as good as Even Beyond the Sky.
Yeah,
Even Beyond the Sky is better.
Songs like
Really
songs like
that actually.
I wanted to say something.
yeah, Yeah, songs like the battle theme, all the battle themes really. Like the
Black
Your
Tar,
Way,
Uncontrollable.
Black Tar. Yeah, all these songs, they're really good songs.
I'll
and it
die
just-
on this hill, but Black Tar, the ground theme, is my favorite song in the entire series.
Yeah, it's really good.
Really,
Yeah, I will
That's-
die on that hill. That's my favorite song in the entire series.
I would not go that far at all.
I mean, I wouldn't blame you because a lot of people hate the rap in Xenoblade.
Oh no,
X.
I love it.
I love the rap too. It's just that I see a lot of people that don't like it.
I wouldn't consider it as high as some other things.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But aside
Alright,
from
so
that,
We should actually talk a little
we
bit
need to
about
talk
more of
about
the
the story because
Okay,
there's
so-
so much to talk about and there's yet so little. It's so
So the-
weird.
so
Oh,
in,
that's
the year,
this game in a nutshell.
in the year 2054, Earth is destroyed. But humanity knew this would happen. In response, we create arcs to escape the Earth from these two alien forces known as the Ganglion and the Ghosts.
And it's known as Project Exodus.
Yeah, there are a bunch of them. One of
Yeah.
them was known as Project Exodus, the Earth Life Colonization
Yeah.
Project.
Oh.
The story focuses on the ship called the White Whale,
Yeah.
which was able to escape the war between these two alien forces, but one of the forces caught up with them and sent them crashing down onto this planet called Mira. From there, the story is very much a story about how humanity tries to survive, and the story progressively adds stakes. You play mainly as your created protagonist, canonically known as Cross. By the way, Xenoblade Chronicles X was released in I think
15.
April or May.
April
of 2000.
2015 in Japan, and then it was released in like December for the rest of us plebeians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was known as Xenoblade Cross in Japan, and it was released as Xenoblade Chronicles X for the rest of the world.
Yep.
So you play as the main character Cross, or whoever you name him as, and you join the team of Elma and Lynn, and
Blade.
who are members of this thing called Blade. I prefer the Japanese name. Beyond the Logos Destiny, Artificial Destiny Emancipator. But in the English localization, it's Builders of the Legacy After the Destruction of Earth. It's an acronym, basically.
It's very, very strange as an acronym. It's I don't know. It kind of feels a bit forced just to get into the whole blade symbolization thing.
I like the.
From a language perspective, I get what they mean by Builders of a Legacy. Beyond the Logos, I don't understand.
Logos is a different has many different ramifications. It means logic, it means speech, and it also could be in relation to Jesus Christ, which a very big theme in this series is
Yes.
the idea that we've transcended the need for Christ, and so in Xenogears and Xenosaga, the time period in which those games take place is under the notation of TC, which stands for Transcend Christ, instead of AD or BC. But that's
Interesting.
different. That's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
The story,
And then the story is very, very simple compared to Xenoblade 1 or 2, in that it's
it's
very...
done in a
go ahead.
it's done in a kind of episodic manner, right? Like,
Xenoblade 2 is also episodic.
well, yeah, but it's also I mean,
Chapter Sonic.
yeah, it revolves around 12-ish chapters, just because the first 3-ish or 4 is like really one. It's just one big tutorial.
Welcome to the world.
Yeah, exactly. But the story is very episodic. Small conflicts, small plots, small revelations as you build up to the final 2 chapters. Chapter 11 is my favorite.
Yeah, the best fight.
It also
Which one's
has
chapter
some of the
11?
best level design in the chapters.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which one
So
was Chapter 11 again?
Chapter
That
11 is
is
when you're
the one with Lao.
storming the castle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, okay, so I will agree, storming that castle is awesome. The Lao boss fight sucks ass, though.
I didn't mind it. But...
we will talk about Lao
We'll,
in a minute.
He's a terrible
we'll talk
character.
about the bosses later, because this is both a high point and a low point.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The ultimate goal is to find the Lifehold, where all the rest of humanity is supposedly being stored. And yeah, you fight. And then there's also the alien force known as the Ganglion, which try to wipe humanity out for reasons that is explained in the story as we are biologically
Dead.
inherently meant to be their superiors. It's vague. Okay.
Something like that.
First,
We will surpass human.
yeah. Okay. So first of all, I don't mind the story. I don't
yeah.
what I don't like though is I don't like that people feel the need to interpret Elma as protagonist. I do not like the idea.
Yeah.
I do not like the idea of Elma as a protagonist. I don't think there is a protagonist in this game. I think the protagonist is the whole of humanity.
Yeah.
Humanity itself is the protagonist.
Oh wait, you mean that item from Dark Souls? Okay, but I feel like both Cross and Elma share the protagonist role. That's how I feel.
I guess.
I just don't find Elma to be a very
Elma is not compelling. I don't think. I think. This, I'm gonna also say this: X's characters are the weakest in the entire series.
I feel like their main characters are weak. I find that their side characters are actually quite strong.
I love X, but I can't tell you. I would prefer Hope or Fog over someone like Tora or Dumban.
Yeah.
You're comparing the highs of the lowest game of the franchise to the highest characters of the best games of the franchise.
Okay. I'll give you that.
Going back to the topic at hand.
So I'll it's like comparing Alexa with Ryan.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair comparison.
But I mean, my whole thing about that was like, to summarize my whole issue with X, and like very quickly, is simply because I love Xenoblade 1 so much that when Monosoft announced they were making a game, I just immediately, my head was like, I'm going to be able to play like a new Xenoblade again, like a game like Xenoblade 1. That was
the gameplay is like Xenoblade. It's a
being completely honest, that was my mistake.
Yeah.
After every trailer, I kept it in my head that what I would be playing would be more akin to Xenoblade 1. So when I played Xenoblade X and it was nothing like that, that's the core of my issues with it.
It's Xenoblade 1 in everything but spirit.
So it's not a spirit.
No, definitely not a spirit, because even the gameplay is vastly
just a successor, not spirit.
Like X is an entirely different beast compared to 1 or 2. Actually, even 1 and 2 are entirely different.
Yeah.
I will say that I find this game the funnest to play out of the three.
Absolutely. This is why I love X. X is
especially because the mechs.
Actually, I have like complaints about the mechs, but we'll get to that later.
They feel fun.
I really learn how to like use overdrive.
I don't think that the scales are inherently bad. I just think what they do to the design of the world, it's weird. We'll go into it. But Brandon, what do you think of X overall?
Basically what you all said is the weakest.
What? No, it's not the weakest.
See, we have some conflicting opinions, but
that's what makes it interesting.
That's
still fun games.
It gives the viewers different points of views, like different perspectives.
Yeah.
Of how people view the game.
I agree. It's very divisive.
Very divisive.
That's just how it went.
My character was named Beck.
But alright, so I guess we're done with story because there's not much story to go around. And
let's go into gameplay, which is the beast of this game.
Oh my god, if you want a game that's like really really versatile, like this is the best Xenoblade gameplay has ever been, because you can mix and match many awesome things together.
This game is a case study of how you create the most complex battle systems in the simultaneously the clearest way possible and also the most obscure way possible.
What the hell does potential do? Potential, they don't tell you that.
What does potential? Let me look at what potential does. I still didn't understand what that does.
Potential increases. Potential. Okay, here's what potential does. It increases the amount of HP you heal from soul voices, which is very important, by the way. And it increases the amount of
the only way you can heal, right?
There is no healer in this. No healer in this game.
There's no dedicated. There's Phoenix Downs. There's no.
There's no there's no dedicated healer in this game, and reviving characters is extremely expensive.
Reviving
pain in the
characters is
Yeah,
such
so I
a
was about
step
to say the
backwards.
stuff that's like really expensive. You do a
Reviving
lot of
characters
stuff.
has been butchered to hell and back. Like, what happened
If you
there?
want the best skill, you're gonna have to spend hours and hours.
I don't
Oh
know
yeah,
about
that's
hours.
that's
but-
anything in this game.
I know this from experience because a couple days ago I actually got the Ares 90.
Fair. But yeah, the gameplay is really versatile, and
So it's so fun.
anyway, back to potential. That thing also increases the amount of damage your TP arts do.
TP?
Yeah, like so. One of my favorite things about Xenoblade X, probably the combat. Like I really like the combat.
The
Yeah.
combat is the best in the series that ever been.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Especially like once you learn to wield like and learn how to use it, like overdrive. It's so much fun. You can like.
All right,
get the
let's be
max-
honest. When we're talking about
overdrive.
when we're talking about why we think X is the best gameplay in the series, we're talking about it's the most breakable of the series, and we love it because it's so
Yes.
And
rewarding.
it's OP.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
so overpowered too, but I love it because it still uses everything you got. It's just that it's used in a different way.
yeah.
Because
So
you're-
another-
because
God.
the type of arts that you bring, like purple arts, now give you TP. So if you're not rocking arts gain TP augments, you have to spam them
I
in
do.
order to.
I do like that, and you can pick different like classes for stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you can pick
Yeah.
different classes, but if you master the class branch, then you could use those weapons whenever you want. So you can pick a mastermind if you
Yeah.
want those higher stats, but you can still use the longsword and assault rifle from the duelist class. So that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that.
I think it's interesting that that seems to be, I don't know, maybe the common thing here, because I don't feel like X's combat is the best. Like, I
There are
prefer
many
Xenoblade
reasons
2's
why.
but
it's far, far better than X. And my biggest issue with X's combat, though, is, of course, I don't like that that healing is so unreliable and difficult to do.
Yeah, I
and
see.
the
where
only healing you're
going.
doing is feeling your skill.
Yeah, it just there's nothing, there's like no effective way. I think there's only one art that is specifically about gaining HP. I think you get it from the Mastermind line,
Yeah.
and even then it heals like a few hundred HP. It's nothing.
There's two arts that heal HP. One is recuperate, which you get at like the beginning of the game, and then there's smooth recovery, which you have to do an affinity mission. That's the only two healing arts in the entire game. And
So good luck out there.
good luck out
guess-
there. Make sure you spam those soul voices.
It's mostly because I got to like the post game stuff, but like come post game and the harder boss fights and everything, I actually didn't like how much the game basically said, okay, now make a good overdrive build and use it. Because it's like just spamming overdrive to beat bosses is like,
Not
or to
fun.
beat certain hard enemies. It's not fun because
Yeah.
you're just doing the same thing every time.
Fair enough.
It-
I can totally
and-
see that.
Getting an overdrive build working for the first time is the most satisfying thing in the world. But after that, yeah, it does get a little monotonous.
And then you can just steamroll everything. And if you destroy everything like that, like Farces and Telethia, with just a cheesy Ghostwalker if an overdrive build, then I can see it. I can see that being boring, but at the same time, if you're gonna do like a cheesy infinite topple build in Xenoblade 1 or a cheesy crit heal build in Xenoblade 2, I think that's sort of the same thing. Because with overdrive, you don't have to just spam Ghostwalker. You can. I mentioned before that being defensive in X is kind of useless, but you can still do that and be like this unstoppable tank to just whittle away at the enemy's HP. And you can still have fun doing stuff without like Ghostwalker or Blossom Dance.
I made those builds just because I was curious. I wanted to see what they were like. But my other issue with relying on overdrive so much has really nothing to do with the game. It has to do with the music.
you don't like
Vegan
Weird
is
Flicken?
awesome.
I don't know.
No,
Okay.
that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Weird Fliegen, I think, is pretty good. I enjoy it. The issue is that it overwrites all the other music, and so when you're doing the thing and you have to use overdrive or you're using overdrive all the time to fight the harder enemies, you don't get the unique monster theme. You
like
don't
the
get
final boss.
You don't
You don't get the
themes.
final boss theme. That's
It
the biggest.
overrides the
What?
final
You
boss
don't?
theme.
And you don't get the
Speaking of, that's
what's it
the
called?
play of-
You don't get the Telethia theme.
you don't even get
nor-
in the
you don't-
forest the Yiggler Zero theme, which is my favorite
that
song
one's a
in the
good
whole game.
Yeah,
I
so
heard
that's
that one.
Yeah, you don't
why
get.
I don't. That's
You don't get the Telethia theme. You don't get the Super Boss theme, which is different from Uncontrollable. Yes, it's a different. There's a difference.
yeah. So that's probably my biggest issue. In addition to being like monotonous and kind of streamlining things a little too much in some cases, it's just that it kind of overwrites the music, which
Also-
is good until it's doing it all. If there was a toggle for it, then I wouldn't
Absolutely.
complain at all.
It's
Yeah.
the even worse issue from Vision Reacts from Xenoblade 1.
Hmm.
Because because I hear you, because it is a very, very glaring problem in both 1 and X, where once
Yeah.
a vision happens, you can kiss You Will Know Our Names goodbye. When we're
Yeah, but
speaking-
Vision Reacts doesn't apply to boss themes. I don't think.
Yeah,
Right?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Wait,
that's
actually,
something they did right.
Actually, no. It actually overrides You Will Know Our Names. So, oops.
That's the unique monster theme, right?
That's
that's
a
the
unique
unique
monster, but it's still a boss.
It doesn't override Zanza. It doesn't override anything like that.
That's an improvement over
Best
X.
Xenoblade one back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my main issue with that whole aspect of it.
I hear you, and it can be very spammy if you're using the overpowered builds. And it creates like this huge divide between longsword builds and everything else.
And because it's like if
Yeah,
you're
you
gonna
know,
take on like
I will
the
stand on
Headless
my hill-
Emperor in Oblivia, but you don't want to spam an overdrive build, then you're just gonna be stuck fighting him for hours on end because he's got like 100 million HP or some bullshit.
Oh yeah, that the dinosaur.
Oh.
Brian, you want to stand on your hill? I'm gonna stand on my hill. I think the photon saber is the best sword is the best weapon in the game, and I will not.
You both have
lightsaber.
I will stand by the photon saber.
You know what?
With his lightsaber.
Look,
Yeah, high ground.
actually, Owen, I will agree with you because the photon saber is the most fun weapon in the entire game.
It's so fun.
It is.
Are you telling me you don't want a Starfall Blade into Starfall Rondo into Starfall Blossom into Galactic Cataclysm?
Also,
You're literally using a
let's not-
lightsaber
let's
on
not
another
let's not mince words here. Essence Exchange is amazing.
Yes, this exchange is great.
Yeah, I'm with you both right there. My first cross, his final build was Photon Saber, and I forgot what the other weapon was. It's been so long, but he had a Photon Saber because it was so cool. Yeah, my
can't
second
go
cross
wrong
was
with a
Longsword
lightsaber.
Gatling gun.
Yeah, the photon saber is the best weapon in the game because it's fun. Not
It's
not
fun.
because you just have a longsword, just overdrive and then blossom dance things to death.
It may be a little bit less efficient, but you can still make some really efficient builds with it, and it's just so fun to use.
Anything can be made efficient.
Yes.
You can kill Telethia on foot without engaging in a skill.
Those are people who do that. I have the most incredible respect to them.
Yeah, they don't board skill at all. All they do is equip firing range augments, and then they just shoot at Telethia and keep using arts like that. It's like pew 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 pew.
Alright. Let's talk about another aspect of the gameplay. Probably the big reason why a lot of people bought this game: the robots, the skells.
Ah, yes,
Skills.
skills. Basically,
I mean, so
oh my god. Okay, this has a lot of problems.
Let's
and-
let I'm gonna let Arden go first,
Yeah,
and then
problem,
Brandon,
huh?
and then Brian and I can go into Enes can go. and then Brian and I will
Actually,
go.
I should go last because I had the most to say.
Okay, sure.
okay.
Uh,
So, I think I actually do like the skill aspect. Like, I mean, I can see I like how they play like a role in the story. I guess like with like the chapter 9, like in the NLA attack, they use like the skills for like the defense. It's I don't know. I kind of I like the skills. I mean, just mechs are just cool in general for me. I like them.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're like the best storytelling aspect, but I really like the look of them and they're just cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like them. I enjoy them.
Brandon, your thoughts on skills?
Skill, yeah. They're probably one of the best additions in it. And yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, really powerful.
They're fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Enes.
Skills. It's funny because it brings me back to exactly what I was saying about Overdrive with Over the Rainbow and all that.
Oh,
Has less to do with the skills.
glory inside.
It wouldn't be such an issue if they just let me jump. I don't know why I have to fly every time. But beyond that, I actually do like using the scales, like, because they're just cool in concept. They're big robots you can use to smash stuff with. It's pretty fun from that angle. I never had much issue with them. Like, the biggest issue I have with them is like getting pieces for future builds and stuff, and like making the Ares 90, and the fact that Black Tar Skell is very inferior to Black Tar, but that's about it.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
I have one more thing.
It's like the second part of it.
Yeah.
I need a bigger gun.
We're stuck on a different planet.
It's a bigger planet, like we can manage.
So another thing with the skulls is, I like how when you get the game, I like how big it feels. Like on foot, you can explore like the entire like 5 continents, and like there's so much to explore. Once you get your skull, the world starts to feel a little bit smaller.
That's why it's the best thing
You can,
to
like,
just fly
explore
around
everything.
the whole world.
Yeah, I'll drive around. But then once you get your flight module, then that's when the world like starts to feel like a lot more smaller. I mean, it's still a really big world, but like you've been to most of the locations by just flying around. But yeah, I mean, once you get to that point in the game, you're like about end game kind of chapter 9. It's when you get the flight module. But yeah, I think that just kind of makes the world a little bit smaller, feel a little bit smaller. But yeah.
When it comes to skulls for me, I think that they are okay. So I think they are from a design perspective, they're a ton of fun to use early on. When you get your first skull, when you're able to get the more weapons and stuff like that, it's cool. For a first-time player who doesn't know anything about the game, aka me on my first playthrough, I find them to be very adequate tools of destruction because you want to work on your skull, make sure it gets as powerful as possible, and work on it, right? That's what gets you through the main story. But on a second playthrough, when you really know all the tactics, the gameplay promotes, unless you want to invest a lot of time, the gameplay really only like encourages you working on one aspect of the combat, whether it be ground or skull combat. Well, ground combat's the best thing in the game, so you should do that. And because of that, on my second playthrough, I found myself losing my skull a lot more often than my first playthrough. Because my first playthrough, I focused on my skull a lot more, and then in my second playthrough, I focused on my ground gear, so my skull didn't get attention, and because of that, it fell in battle a lot more. Another thing is that, as Aaron was saying, world gets smaller. I don't think the skulls themselves is a bad thing. I think it was the inclusion of the flight module that made the world feel cramped. I feel like as you create more convenience to the player, you also create a sense of you lose a lot of the what makes the world you created kind of feel grounded and real to you, because literally you're flying, so you're not grounded anymore. But more than just that, it just you've created more agency for the player, and so the player feels like a kind of king or god of the world, like they can go anywhere they want now. And because of that, the world doesn't feel as threatening or as alive as it once did. Even though there's nothing that's changed, it's just that you've been able to fly now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Okay, I have so many things to say about skulls. Okay, let's put it this
More
way.
than me, definitely.
Let's put it this way. Their Xenogears gears kinda improved. And I have a lot of problems with Xenogears gears, but Xenoblade X is skulls. Wow, it's a bit better. There is a lot left to be desired, and I enjoy using them on my first playthrough, but again, just like Owen, on my second playthrough, I noticed a lot of the cracks with the series. With the skulls, in that sometimes it's not really fun using them. It's like a lot of the really good arts have cooldowns, like of 2 minutes. And look, some arts in Xenoblade 1
Cockpit time!
Actually, well, I was planning to rant about cockpit time for a long later on, but look, there are only a few arts in Xenoblade 1 that had like 2-minute cooldowns, like Sword Drive for Ryan. But in Xenoblade X, all of the good arts are locked behind these stupid arts that have like 2-minute cooldowns, and it's kind of aggravating. But but then it kind of promotes that you just bring in a pack of 4 skulls, gang up
Just
against
hit
the
the
enemy, spam the right attacks, just spam the same thing, and then the enemy just dies. Repeat. You engage in a different enemy, then you just spam the same thing. And it kind of just brings down the skill combat because it just comes down to a single I win button. And this is exaggerated in the post game where you can build a Zenith cannon or Ares 90 that can just spam the same hard hitting thing and kill Telephy or Farsis pretty easily. It's like, no, that's not fun. And you can argue the same for overdrive builds, but at least you have to work somewhat with overdrive builds. Skulls is just you press the I win button and then you win. I don't know. Skills have a lot of potential, and
at least for the
I felt like it really helped with the powerful boss though. Like,
okay, so when you're playing the game normally, like, yeah, they actually are quite helpful and they're very situational. But after you beat the final boss and you're starting to take on the bigger challenges of the world, then that's when their cracks start to show a lot more.
They're just not balanced that well with each other, unfortunately. It's still better than the balancing in Xenogears, but it's not great either. It's still kind of subpar, and the part of that is because what you do on foot has no bearing on what you do in the skill. The only way you can boost your effectiveness in a skill is if you equip skill gear. But who's gonna do that? Not me, not you, not like any. I don't know anyone is gonna put on skill gear on their body.
So
we have skill. Okay.
So, Brian, I'm not sure you're aware about that. That's actually a mechanic that they borrowed from Xenogears. There's an item in Xenogears, the Ether Doubler, which if you want, there's an optional boss that you can fight in the game, where typically most players will fall to that boss, but if you're lucky, and you have the right setup, you can actually kill that boss.
Are you talking about?
No spoilers here, but basically there's a boss at some point.
At the disc 2, right, where you lose.
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
that guy.
The Ether Doubler actually doubles the effect that you equip the Ether Doubler onto your person, but it doubles the effect on your skill.
I know. I abuse that with Ellie in Air Rides.
It's fun.
It's disgusting too, but I don't know. I just feel like that both on foot and skill combat needed to hybridize in a way. So what you did in one aspect affected the other, so it wasn't so useless. Why not just give us okay, if we had a photon saber on foot, why can't we just use a photon saber in a skill?
Yeah, the auto attacks and skills are super underwhelming.
Don't auto attack with scouts. Jesus Christ. Do not auto attack with scouts. Also, the fun parts of X's combat, that being the secondary cooldowns and overdrive, are butchered in scouts. Like, you get no secondary cooldowns at all. So, if you see an art,
why don't
just
the scouts just fight like on foot? Why do they not have those mechanics?
Yeah, I don't know. It just boggles the mind. It should have been that way, I feel like. It should have just
Brian, why is this your third favorite game of all time again?
Because the on-foot combat and the exploration, the world building, and the side quests are that good.
Brian
mentioned
usually prefers gameplay over story.
Yeah, I do. And look, I complain about the gameplay, but look, I can complain about any game. I can complain about how Metroid Prime, which is my second favorite game of all time, by the way, has an annoying traversal mechanic with the freaking Magmore caverns and how you have to go through all that all the time, and how Phendrana Drifts doesn't have an over that goes into Chosen Ruins, but we're not in this podcast for Metroid. We're here for Xenoblade, so yeah. Yes. But I could complain about anything and go on a mildly long rant about how this thing is not good, and most of the time I'm nitpicking. So, but sometimes it's just a big problem, and skills unfortunately have a big problem. Yeah. And look, I say this is my third favorite game of all time, while also saying this game has so many problems that eclipses both 1 or 2. But look, what it does right so well, because the on-foot combat is so well implemented and so well fleshed out. is among the best I've seen in RPGs. This beats out anything else I've played. Final Fantasy 6 or 7, Final Fantasy 5, so good. Love it. And the side quest, this is the strongest side quest in the entire series.
Let's spend a little bit of time talking about that. The side quests in this game are really good.
These side quests are fantastic.
Yeah,
I do really love the side quests.
Yeah. Whereas Xenoblade 1 had... Oh my god, I don't want to talk about
Some of them you couldn't even find in Xenoblade 1.
Like that stupid draw distance among others. We talked about that before, but X's side quests are just much higher quality. Okay, they're still the same generic, awful side quests on the terminal, and stupid intelligent liquid metals. I hated that. That took even longer than some ice cabbages in Xenoblade 1. How is that even possible?
Oh man.
Xenoblade X's collection quests are the worst.
I think
They're
X and
so
Torna
bad.
maybe have some of the best side quests in the game.
Torna is second
Or
best.
in the
Yes, Torna's side quest is second best. But we'll get to Torna, we'll get to it.
Yeah, but I feel like I do like the side quests a lot just because they have a tangible effect on what happens in the world. Like side quest chains will give you achievements, but they'll also create new locations for you to go to in the world to develop the I remember the one I always talk about is the Bianco water plant, right? Where you help the city create a new water purification plant, and suddenly that becomes a location they can go to, and
there's side quests that appear
and then
there.
there are side quests that build off that.
Yeah, exactly. And
Throne.
the side quest chains in general are just very well done.
Yeah, this is the best side quests in the entire series, and these are really good. They help contribute to the world, and it's so good. I love these side quests. Although it does have a dud. A few big duds. Not just the blood lobster, the trading card.
Trading card thing.
The trading card quest can blow me. I hate that. I hate that side quest.
You know what else is a pretty big issue with side quests in X?
Affinity.
Well, was it? I don't remember.
That's
Well,
in
there's
everything.
two things.
It
One,
could be a problem on your first playthrough because if you just were using Elma in London everywhere for every side quest, which I did by the way.
Why would you do that? I'm sorry, I don't get it. I don't like Elma, so.
Oh.
To be fair, I don't either, but. Oh, well, it's more because she's not developed much. So if they made it X2, they better crank up that personality. Personality development.
Please.
I think that's really funny that you guys have a lot more positive things to say about some of the Xenoblade stuff, some of the X stuff that I don't like. But then the flip is true as well, because I'm like the odd man out here where I actually like Elma. When it comes to X's cast in general,
But
sucks. A lot of them really suck, but in my opinion, Elma's the highlight of it.
okay.
Well,
None of the other characters are
yeah.
just nothing.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff that X tries to do with its cast, and some of it works, and then some of it just doesn't. And Elma is one of those things that I feel like doesn't work. I feel like a lot of the side characters though do work well. I like all the Japan DLC characters that were.
He's just the character that guides you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Elma has artificial character development. What I mean by that is stuff happens to her, and it's like, yeah, she has tons of character development, but then you realize it doesn't actually affect what she thinks about the world, like at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so the big thing at the end of the game is that she's actually an alien. And like, okay, cool.
Yes.
Why does that matter?
It doesn't.
Exactly.
I try to make it more
The thing with
interesting.
that is that it's not her fault or her character's fault that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the fault of everything else in the game not telling you shit.
That's the
and not expanding on its
that's
many
really the
ideas.
bigger problem. Like the main story is so
Yeah,
undercooked.
that's how it tells you. It's like, oh yeah, this is it.
That's
So there's a lot of instances in X where it's like, hey, here's this cool thing, and you're like, cool. Can I see more of that cool thing, please?
Nope.
And X is like, what cool thing? What are you talking about?
Let's
like
put it
5
this
times
way.
in a row.
Let's put it this way. Xenoblade X is the best tech demo I've ever played.
You know what? I would agree with that.
The best what?
The best tech demo I've ever played.
Tech demo?
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Because look, if you think about it, it is a tech demo. It's like, okay, it's not Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zero's bad, but I mean, actually bad. This is my third favorite game of all time.
It feels like
Yeah, it feels like
it feels like a mere introduction to something that we don't have a part 2 of.
The story never
Exactly.
ends.
No.
What a cop out! What a fucking cop out!
It really is. That stupid cliffhanger. Just if they removed that cliffhanger, it would have been mediocre.
Like with a lot of animes we know.
No. They're not just the cliffhanger. They need to remove that entire ending scene. It's stupid. Lau's dead. We're done.
Make that a microtransaction.
Introduce better characters.
No, they don't need to introduce better characters. Just need to make
There's
the characters.
18 characters in the game. You want more?
Well,
just make those.
see, here's my
characters
thing.
better.
Here's the. I was talking about this with a friend a while ago about my biggest issue with the future of Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I see it as this way: people are really looking forward to the possibility that because Xenoblade 2 is done, that Monolith's next project will be X2. And in my head, I'm like, if that happens, like, I know Monolith Soft's attached to it, and I love Monolith Soft, but if they announce it, I will just not be even remotely interested in picking it up.
Depends what they show. Like,
Well, it depends on what changes they make, because I feel like they need to take the best of Xenoblade 1 and 2.
no,
That could be true, but my issue with it is, once again, from the kind of person that I am,
should have
and how I
actually
went
packed in one game.
into the game, is that I was looking for a narrative,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and X did not have one. So the
Yeah, it
idea that
did.
they're going to make a sequel and try to build on the foundation that doesn't exist from the first game is like, well, then what's the point?
I feel
You
like
don't
that.
have anywhere to continue with a
Well,
story.
I
mean,
would
like-
disagree with that, because I feel like that there is a sort of a foundation. It's not a particularly strong one, but you can still build off of the setting. I believe you can.
I feel like the setting is strong. Yeah, I just don't feel like what they did with the story was good. And again, this is a result of the fact that there was supposedly a very strong story, but it was all cut. And that's what hurts the narrative. Because again, Cross wasn't supposed to be like a player avatar. Some of the stuff wasn't meant to be as it is. There's meant to be a lot more deeper. But they just had to restrict the scope a little bit, which I guess makes sense. This was actually Takahashi had to restrict himself a little bit for Xenoblade 1 because it was their first major project for Nintendo that was like a new IP. But when Xenoblade 1 was like real successful, like, okay, sweet, I can do some of my bigger ambitions now. But he went so big that they actually had to scale it back a bit.
That's a common theme with Takahashi, dating all the way back to Xenogears.
Yeah, he's been getting a lot better at the games, thank God, but still.
Considering that
Yeah, well,
it was
I mean-
going to
I mean,
be.
it only took him 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my whole deal with it, and I still stand by that, there is no foundation, because if they were to do an X2, and they were to release it with a story, I'm almost completely confident that if someone was to ask me, hey, I'm interested in X2, should I play X1? And I'm like, I mean,
Probably
you
not.
could want to, but
Do you
also
want to
you
get a
don't
Wii U?
have to, because
Do you
like,
want to spend all day grinding for those stupid intelligent liquid metals? No, you don't.
Well, see, the thing
then
is-
don't.
you would want to play the first game before the second one because you want context. But I'm like, I could summarize the context for you in a sentence, and then you can skip Xenoblade X1 and go to X2. That's the issue. that I
Well,
have.
That actually, I actually agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with
Because
that.
it's
But
like, so what happened in the first game? It's like, oh, they found the life hold, but it was actually broken. There, that's it. Move on.
And,
to
a friend of theirs died that isn't actually dead.
also,
yeah, and there you go. Now play X2. You know
here's
everything.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Metal Gear Solid was the first Metal Gear game that most people played, but it actually had 2 prequels.
Yeah, the first. Well, but the first 2 Metal Gear games were on the MSX and NES. I
Well-
doubt you could call them.
No, well, okay. Look, I won't defend Metal Gear 1's plot, but Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake is actually a pretty good plot. It's pretty much like a Metal Gear Solid prototype. To be fair, it's like Metal Gear Solid is basically like a Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake retread, but with better some better plot points and better fleshed out stuff, but I feel like that you can still build on that. It's just that you just have to reference back to it within the story. So playing Xenoblade X1, oh god, would not be that required.
Necessary.
Yeah. So
there's not a lot happens.
Yeah, there really isn't that much that happens.
It's not a sequel. It's just
like, I mean,
it's just an option.
I know someone else said, I forgot who said this, that you want more characters, and that's not really what I want.
No, I don't want more characters. There's 19 of them.
Develop the ones they have, or if they do a sequel, just cut like half of them, because we really don't
cut
need
them by killing them, okay? I don't want it.
Some of them are redundant.
Just kill them all off. Just get rid of them.
I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion in this chat, but like, of any of the main characters that I think the game could do without, obviously there's Tatsu.
Yes,
the game doesn't need him.
We don't need Tatsu.
Retcon Lao
to be playable.
Retcon Lao out. I don't need that. And another thing that I don't get.
Lao.
I hate Lao with burning passion.
No,
Like-
Lao's like narrative for like turning into like the villain was alright.
I like Lau's character arc. I feel like it was.
Yeah,
It didn't make any sense.
the most fleshed out. I feel like.
Of the entire game, yeah. Because like no one has a very strong arc. No one. Like, people say that the affinity missions flesh out the side characters. I did those affinity missions, and while I enjoy them, they're not really...
Probably the best character actually is Van.
Wait,
I mean,
Van Damme? Yeah, Van Damme's the best character. No.
People do say that a lot. That the side affinity,
I
that
do
the
hear that all
affinity
the
missions
time.
improve.
But, look,
but I'm like,
even I, as a mega X defender, do not agree with that.
I mean, here's the example I always give people: Irina. I actually really did like her first affinity mission, because it did give you a good insight into her character. Then her second one, so I was really excited into learning about her second one, but it's like positioned at like chapter 10 or whatever. It's like towards the end of the game that they allow you to do it.
When.
But then you do Irina's second affinity mission, and it's not about her. You don't learn anything about her in that entire affinity mission.
You thought this was going to be about me? You're just kidding.
No, it's about two random NPCs you never have to interact with again after that.
Yeah.
No joke. That's what the affinity mission is. It's like, hey, these two NPCs are having a problem. Let's help them. That's it. It's like, okay, did I learn anything about Irina? I learned she really values family, but I already knew that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something you don't know. Oh, never mind. You do know it.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Yeah, I feel like the affinity missions are actually some of the not as good side quests.
Yeah. That's why you can skip most of them.
But you can't skip them because the side quests are like the heart.
Some of them are required for the main.
Not even just that. The side quests are really the main beat of this game's story. So if you skip the side quests, you're skipping the entire story. It's like Majora's Mask.
So, another major character, obviously, is Lao. He is the arguably central. No, he's not really a central antagonist, but he's the secret antagonist. Yeah, it's where a lot of the issues from him, issues of Xenoblade Chronicles X come from. He's the traitor of the story, and a lot of Xenoblade Chronicles X's central messages kind of come from Lao as a character about like. A lot of like the dangers about humanity's kind of self-centeredness on the best, like the most self-serving aspects of us. So Lao is actually my favorite character in Xenoblade Chronicles X, and as I said before, Elma is my least favorite. But I know people, aka Eunice, have very different opinions. So let's talk about Lao a bit.
I really don't want to.
I'm ambivalent. I'll just say that. Because I recognize his arc, sort of. I don't know if I really like it, but it's okay, I guess. That's all I got. It's not much to say, but it's okay. Like I like
Lao's motives, like why he does what he does. Like, I mean, it's like you can see why, like because of Project Exodus and how they left his wife and left his daughter back on Earth.
And it's not just it's not so much the fact that they left his daughter and wife, though he definitely feels betrayed by that. It's more the fact that he feels like it should have been a chance thing, like everything was decided by chance, but what it actually was based on was skill set and how valuable they would be to the overall thing. And
because it only shows like 20,000 people, right?
How
it was like around that number.
No, it's 2 million. 2 million.
2 million, yeah, 2 million.
No, 20 million. Sorry, 20 million.
Oh, okay.
Because it's 9.98 billion is the people who died. So if the total population was 10 billion, then we got 20 billion remaining.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's like a big woof. That's a lot of damage.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I like Lau's character not because he does good things, because he definitely doesn't. It's more it's similar to how I view it's similar to actually how I view Dixon. I know a lot of people find him a very divisive character, and Lau is probably that to an exponential degree. He's very divisive. I personally find him to be like you can tell that he definitely cares about like members of the team, but he feels like the best thing for humanity would just be to die out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that regard, I think
the robots themselves.
in that regard, I think that Lau is somewhat more interesting than Dixon, in my opinion. Although Lau doesn't really do much, so he's also worse than Dixon in some aspects. It's weird.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
I
he
just don't
might be
agree
one
with
of my more
any-
favorite characters. I don't know if he's my favorite character, but
He's
I
one of my
I do
favorites,
enjoy
but
him.
only because everyone else isn't that good. So
I want to hear Ian's perspective on this specifically.
yeah,
we had a small sort of debate about this back when Mr. Chugga Conroy posted on Twitter. He was asking, "What did you not like about Xenoblade X?" or something about opinions of that from people in general.
You
And,
said and you said you didn't like Tatsu, which I agree with, and you didn't like Lau, which I don't
Yes.
agree with.
Yeah, because nothing about Lau comes across to me as making any sense. Like his motives don't make sense like in any way. Like, what I got from his that's why I don't. That's the one reason. Like invading Caldros is super cool. The Ganglion Hangar, that part was awesome. The Lau fight at the end was just him whining about how he suffered from what happened on Earth, despite the fact that literally everyone else suffered just as much, in some cases more than him.
Irina lost her brother.
Yeah, and he the thing is,
Wait, did I say Irene or Irina? I think I said Irina.
Irina.
Okay, good. Okay,
The
good.
thing is, he said that he said that it wasn't a chance thing, and I was like, oh, they needed to pick the specific certain people to help continue humanity so they don't die out wherever they go. And I think he even admits that it made sense, and he just didn't like it. So it's like, it's petty. He comes across to me as just nothing but petty and whiny and complainy, and it just, there's nothing intriguing there. Before the whole turnaround, which, by the way, I think him being a traitor didn't make any sense at all in the first place.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more like, oh, well, we had Dixon as like the secret plot twist evil character in the first game, so let's do it again with WoW because it works so well. That's the only like thing that came across to me for them doing it. Because beyond that, he just comes across as lazy beforehand. Because even for one of the affinity missions you do that involves Lau, he's not even there. You know,
That's
and
true.
his team's like, oh no, he does this all the time, and they're like so used to him being a lazy piece of shit, and I'm like, I don't get why you guys are so attached to him when he doesn't do anything. He doesn't. It doesn't come across to me like he actually respects you guys. I mean, I guess in the end, it does make a bit of sense in that he wants humanity to die out, so that's why he doesn't really care. Because he's like, if I die, it doesn't matter. Because he's like so long gone, he's like so out there and just whatever, affected by what happened on Earth so much. So I guess that's kind of why he is, but it still just doesn't make any sense to me.
Fair
And I
enough.
still stand by the fact that the ganglion weapons hanger and the fact that you have absolutely no control over your cross choosing to side with Lynn or Elma is probably just the worst part of the entire story.
Yeah, I feel like there were like throughout the game you're given like this choice, right? Like you're given choices, and I'm like okay, like here's London, like okay, I'm ready for the this section, and it makes your cross. I'm like, so what was the? And that just that point, my first playthrough was the huge disconnect that I felt where I'm just like, okay, fine, sure, why not? That's when at that point is when the part where I'm just like, yeah, this story probably isn't going to end as well as I hope it will.
Yeah, because I mean, they've given you so many choices in the game before, and this is like, I would say that this is probably the biggest choice you can make in the game is whether or not you decide to side with Lynn and like, hey, Elma, let's not execute Lau, or with Elma and like, well, you know, Lau's a piece of shit, and it's like,
especially since the entirety of the especially since basically none of the choices in the game matter. To have this choice would feel like it wouldn't matter, and they just don't let you choose.
It really is odd. Like, I mean, let's face it, there was no way that Elma was going to shoot Lau anyway, because Lynn was standing there. I just would have felt a lot more comfortable if they gave me the option to stand next to Elma. Because once again, I didn't buy into any of Lau's reasons. His motives don't make any sense to me, so I would never, ever, ever want to side with Lynn in any reality. And so it's like, well, just, you know, I mean, okay, maybe because like Elma's whole thing is that she, for whatever reason, which we don't know the reason because the game never tells us, she decided to leave wherever her homeworld is to save humanity from the ganglion. How did she know they were coming? We don't know because the game didn't tell us. But at that point in the game, she's faced with the guy who is basically going to undo everything that she's tried to do since she came to Earth. So it's like her whole life's mission of saving humanity, Lau's just like shitting on. So she's like, I need to stop this guy before he ruins everything, you know?
And Xenoblade X suffers from like the Force Awakens problem, where like it has all this background stuff that you need to know, but at the same time it doesn't really explain. It's trying to set up for a future stuff that is too thick. Is like doesn't stand on its own very well. Yeah. And
yeah, it's absolutely that. It's just there's so much in this game that, but I mean, we've already said this I think twice already.
Multiple times.
Yeah, where it's like they had a big story, they had a lot of cool stuff, and then just things happened and nothing came across. You know, they had to cut just so much of it out.
I would have liked to see XCX's original script, even as like a Perfect Works type thing, like they did for Xenogears and the Perfect Death. For those who don't know, Xenogears and Xenosaga are games, but there are entire encyclopedias of thousands of years of backstory. I would have liked to see something like that where they kind of expand on it, but we don't even know. Well, actually, that probably actually wouldn't work now that I think about it, because they've changed. Not only did they just did they just reduce the story of XCX, they also changed it. So the original script probably wouldn't fit in as well.
Yeah, probably not.
It wasn't I know one of the examples we know for sure is that the Nopon weren't actually supposed to be in the game at all.
No,
that was
they weren't.
They added that last minute.
That was one of the big changes that they did when they changed the story.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we got Tatsu.
Yeah, that's why we don't have. That's why there's no playable Nopon character in this game, because it wasn't built from the ground up thinking that there's going to be a Nopon character.
Let's just skip Tatsu because he doesn't deserve a discussion.
Yeah,
Let's not even talk about him.
Who's Tatsu?
Yeah,
I agree.
But I mean, I was gonna say something. Was it about Tatsu? I don't know if it was. Oh, it was.
But who cares?
Yeah, but this is just one small thing. It's not even just Tatsu. It's also about L.
Okay.
So the whole reason as to why they brought Tatsu in, and then why they brought L in, was that these are two that have lived on Mira their entire lives. And the humans wanted to bring them into the fold to like ask them about the world and to learn about the world from natives, you know? Who else would know better?
You don't get to see
the rest
elves.
of the game never talking to them.
Yeah,
Never.
L doesn't matter.
Like, does not matter at all.
Like the
You meet him in like the one chapter, and then He plays he says like a couple of lines in chapter 12, and that's it.
Yeah, for like even Tatsu aside, the Nabon play a really important role overall, considering like Affinity missions and stuff. El gets nothing.
Yeah, El gets like jack and shit.
Yeah.
He was definitely El was definitely a victim of like the game's content being changed, because he probably would have been important, being like a true Mirror native.
Yeah.
And to say nothing of Celica and Rock, who I think were also supposed
Oh
to
my goodness,
pretty
Celica
important.
and Rock be nothing. Oh, then again, there were.
Celica was heavily actually involved to be. There's a lot of files actually of Celica still in the game. I think there was I can't remember where it was, but I think there's a file still in there of Celica commenting on Lao being in the party. But
Yeah.
the earliest that you can recruit Celica is after Lao leaves the party permanently.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, the other thing about Celica and Rock is that sometimes people have pointed out as being weird is that you have to do the mission to recruit them to the city before you can continue with the story. And yet they never appear in the story.
Yeah,
after you do that mission.
I get like, and there's actually a lot of like designs. So Celica is a clue. So though for the what that means is the clue, the Treon barrier, which the character of Luxar, he mentions that only the people in the clue system have the access to that technology. She's actually a member of that species.
And that technology that was implemented around the life hole, the barrier, was probably something part of the information given to the humans by Elma, along with the skells and everything, right?
Yeah. So it's heavily implied that like Celica, or maybe Celica's people have something to do with the overall, but they just don't talk about it.
Say nothing of the weird simulated fight against the nail machines that never comes up anywhere else.
Oh, Brandon,
which I believe those are also supposed to be clue technology, right?
The what? Sorry?
The nails.
Those are in the missions after post game.
I think I might have seen them. I can't remember exactly where.
It's there's that whole battle simulator thing where you can fight like the Prague Ares again, and yeah. In there, there's a random battle against these two machines that are nowhere else in the game, called the nails, I believe.
Yeah,
you need the drops for something.
Oh right, yeah.
You need them for the Ares 90.
Yeah.
I think that there's like some concept art or some art book that specifically shows those things off. I think in relation to Celica.
The secret X-Files is actually very revealing to how the game
X-Files?
was.
Yep.
It was the secret files of Mira. I think there's a lot in there. Like they mentioned the original girl who Mira was named after. It was like named after a girl who died or something like that.
Someone related to Chuson.
Yeah, Shosan, yeah. There was see what else there was. There was they gave they gave concept art to the Ghost, which was the other alien
fighting
force
the gangland.
other than the gangland.
Just in time for Halloween.
Yeah. They
Spooky.
there what or Destiny, Peter Dinklage. You could anyway, there was I believe that there was a lot of concept art about I think there's actually quite a bit about Celica. But she went through a lot of different design things, I think.
Yeah. There was also concept art of the random Black Knight that they included in the Stinger for no reason. Along with WoW. Yeah. And there was, it's weird.
People have theories that relate to Xenosaga about that, but in the context of the story of Xenosaga, that makes no sense.
Right.
Minor spoilers for Xenosaga. There's these things called testaments, which are humans that have died, but their souls kind of live on, because of external forces, which I'm not going to go into. But the Black Testament, they're references to the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The Black Testament is was a character that had only died 100 years before the events of Xenosaga 1. So that wouldn't make sense.
I see. But yeah, there was a lot of... They also had that one... I tried to read those stories, but I couldn't find a really good translated one. There was, of course, the one about Mira, the name, and Chuson's. I think she was supposed to be like a lover of his or something. And then there was also the story detailing the mystery man that Elma fought alongside in the Tandem Ares.
Yeah, the Tandem Ares is really interesting as well.
Kind of bring that up in the DLC of Xenoblade 2, I think? Somewhat? I'm not sure.
They do, very, very briefly. It's funny because when you first start that DLC and when you first interact with it, the first thing that Elma does is she says something vague, and I'm like, haha, still the same.
Xenoblade X will never be clear, and while that's not a bad thing, there needs to be substance behind that.
There needs to be
obscurity.
something to grasp onto, and this is the character. It's funny because they do it later too, where she brings up the character again, and I think Pandora is like, ooh, is he like important to her in what way? We probably shouldn't ask because it's private. And then Zeke just straight up asks because he's Zeke, and Elma just says, I'll let you figure it out. And I'm like, or you could tell us, you know.
Yeah, so this is I just thought of a good analogy. So there's a difference between obscuring the story and just not having story. Obscuring the story is something like Xenogears, where you could definitely tell there's something, like there's substance. So like if you call like it like a fog, you can definitely find the substance behind the fog. But in Xenoblade Chronicles X, where there's nothing, there's nothing to latch onto, and you're just like in this it's like a superfluous void. Yeah, basically.
Oh.
It's merely stylizing as a story without any actual backstory. It's another reason why I find Elma such a flat character.
Yeah, X succeeds in a lot of things with the gameplay and the world, but story, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Flash, no substance.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's it's I guess one of the harshest things about Xenoblade Chronicles X is that it could have been so much more. It could have. It just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all these reasons why it's like the idea of a sequel doesn't really interest me, because they didn't put down enough.
They would have to really justify it.
Yeah, they have to like really make the story a lot better. Like, they just have to like make it like, somehow like captivate it. It's like really interesting and like
because
story.
you get the feeling that like I just get I get the feeling that the only people who know what was actually supposed to happen in that story is Takahashi.
Yeah.
The guy who wrote the story.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like anything that, like, is meant to be vague, like, you can't tell a story if only you know the details.
Exactly. So you have to, like, reintroduce the details and then make it flow well, like it does in 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
What was the term that was used for... it was another of the one of many abandoned concepts in the game that for some reason are still in the game. It said when you complete Yelv's final
right, the J bodies. The J bodies.
There we go.
You know what? This is also another piece of crap because Yelv was a DLC character.
So for those who aren't aware, so the Japanese version of Xenoblade Cross had 4 DLC characters. There was Yelv, Alexa,
Bose.
Oh god, Bose and
HB.
And HB. HB was the 4th one. And I feel like Bose's story, I actually really like Bose's story a lot. I think he's a really cool character. HB, he's fun. I find him as like a fun rival, but not really anything super. I just like his character. He's fun.
Whatever. Stop excelling.
Speaking, and then Alexa is just like Alexa. You can't really.
Yeah, I mean, can I trade Lynn and keep Alexa, please?
Yeah,
Agreed.
Alexa's better.
Yeah, like Alexa's like, oh, ow. You had to replace Lynn with Alexa, and I can imagine the main cast being so much more interesting.
Yeah, like a Skell fan fiction writer. She wants to marry a Skell.
Imagine just replace Lynn with Alexa. Like Alexa had but just put Alexa in Lynn's place where she has all of the I feel like she'd have a little bit more mature worldview, and I feel like she'd actually be obsessive enough to actually work on all the the Skell flight stuff, right?
I don't think the mature worldview is inherently a bad thing.
And the immature one, you mean?
Yeah, immature worldview isn't inherently a bad thing.
I don't think it's an inherently bad thing either. I actually think Lynn is a really enjoyable character.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like for what Lynn is there to do, I feel like Alexa would just achieve that better.
Fair enough.
Exactly my point. I mean, Lynn's thing about it is that as much as I try to justify, or as much as the game tried to justify it to me, like in retrospect, I still don't. It still doesn't make any sense why they would allow a kid onto the
If she
white
can
whale,
bring, if she
regardless of how smart she is.
no, but
She's
look,
the only kid. She's the only kid in that entire civilization that's
Yeah.
human.
but
They're all
look,
they're
but look,
they're
if-
all like late,
No harm.
late. They're all like 20 to 30 to 40 to 50. No one is in their teens.
Yeah.
but the thing
It
is that
doesn't
if,
make any sense.
but look, it's a combination of both having influential parents and just being really good at what you do.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because doesn't she fail to do the flight module thing like every single time except for the last one?
But she
Like,
proved it herself in the end, so she does
I
do
know, it's
good
just-
work.
Well, I mean, to be fair, engineers hadn't figured it out either, so I don't think that's a very valid
And
point to bring against her.
engineering is a trial and error. Look at how Edison took a bazillion times to make the light bulb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think her failures justify her as a bad character. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
because
Everyone does
every
failures.
engineer fails. So in fact, if Lynn only failed like 5 times, that's like amazing.
That would have been a then we'd have a Wesley Crusher effect from Star Trek where like he's like this kid who saves the day all the time. Like why?
Also,
Yeah, I mean-
it's also like Big Hero
yeah.
6 and
Big
you know.
But that's made for that age demographic.
I guess my biggest issue with Lynn is like kind of like how I had issues with the music changes in the game and all that stuff. My biggest issue with Lynn is that she's tied to Tatsu.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that inadvertently brings her.
Okay, that I won't disagree on because the fact that she and Tatsu were linked together
This is just-
brought down both characters massively.
Yeah.
I mean, it's once again, it's not a fault of the character on its own. It's just other surrounding factors that just don't work.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Tatsu's kind of character, like Tatsu's level of comic relief. I know you don't want to talk about him, but I think
Oh,
it's
can we
important to
skip
point
him?
out that comic relief characters can work, but like
Hey,
in the
Ricky,
scenario
hey,
that
Like
Ricky
Ricky.
works. Ricky works really well.
Thor works.
yeah, in the scenario that X is trying to present,
He's the
you
hero
have to
part.
take a different approach to comic relief as opposed to just stupid jokes all the time.
Yeah.
Because like X
And
is
like
trying to
literally
set up
almost gets you
tension.
killed.
It's like it's doomsday scenario. You know, it's the end of humanity, and we can't have Tatsu cracking stupid jokes when the Rothians are surrounding you and about to execute you. You know?
Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles X feels a lot more like life or death because it is life or death. I argued earlier that I feel like the entirety of humanity is the main character, where it's like it emphasizes like that's actually why I like the idea of the Cross not being a chosen character, but just like being another cog in the machine. Because you there is no room for a chosen hero. You either live together or you die together, and that's why whenever there's there's all the disagreement between all the races, that's why it's such a big deal, because there's like we don't need that right now when we're in such a delicate position.
Fair enough.
So
I just feel like if they want to go with humor, they should have went with more sarcastic humor.
actually, yes, having a more cynical. I hate being cynical, but having more cynical view for that game, or having more
like
Alexis,
fit the tone better.
Yeah.
or having a more Alexa style, where it's like you're living in a fantasy because humanity advanced 200 years in like 15. So
Yeah.
I really
Because-
like
because
Alexa.
of, because,
Yeah.
because of
I'll
external,
admit that.
that would have been good.
I mean, I think Elle did pretty well for the
Elle
bit
is
he was
hilarious. I
featured.
love Elle.
El's hilarious, but he doesn't get character development. That's his issue.
That's
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they should have used him more in place of Tatsu,
Yeah.
but of course
This
they.
call has been disconnected.
I love his broke. I love how like there's this whole thing about like you can talk to aliens because of the plant's weird mystical power thing, and El's like, screw that. I just want to speak English.
I know.
Ass caves.
It's not over until the
Hey,
fat baby sings.
And he does confirm in a heart-to-heart saying, like, I am speaking English to you. This is not the planet translating for me. This is me speaking English. I just speak that broken of English, and it's just like, oh my, I
He
love
just
this guy.
knows English that well.
He know, but he doesn't get the metaphors, and that's why it's so funny.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I will say
Sure.
one more thing actually, because this is something I forgot to bring up. But going back to the side quest, I don't think I talked at all about the side quest while you guys were talking about it.
Okay.
I like you were saying it was like the best stuff, and I do enjoy the side quests. Like there was of course the issue of pop-in, especially if you're like walking around town in Eskel.
The pop-in
You
is
just
so bad.
skip. You just skip over the quest givers or the
I
people.
mean, they
yeah.
freaking
That you
had
need
us.
to
They
find.
freaking had us download like freaking like huge gigabyte
Yeah.
data packs just to make the game load.
If you want all of them.
I mean, you remember those quests where they're like, "Hey, look for a person in this circle," and then the person might not spawn. Remember those?
You gotta do a certain time of day. Yeah, certain...
I always had to bring up Wikipedia, and it was like, "I am standing right there where
And
they
you
should
can't
be."
and you can't change the time in the menu.
Mm.
That's like another one.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh
why
yeah,
they
you gotta go to
I'm-
like little camp place. Or, yeah.
Yeah, like I get why they're trying to like. Okay, so this is actually let's talk real quick about like conveniency. While they did have like some conveniency, like you can fly around, you can fly around the world now, and there's fast travel, and the map is actually really good because it shows you like all the important stuff that you've completed and what you still need to do, and all the rumors that you hear. I actually like that organization system. I think we should let's actually talk about the Wii U gamepad next, but
Yeah.
they messed up character changing because the characters are restricted to certain areas in certain times of day, and sometimes they're just not there because they might be involved in a heart-to-heart later,
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
or they or the characters are and you can
They
only
just
get
wanted to release themselves
you
in
can
the
only
game.
change the time at very specific points, which means
Yeah.
but on the flip side though, you can change the weather by fast traveling, which is nice.
All right.
Yeah, you can't
Oh.
do that in Xenoblade 1 or 2, I believe.
Yeah,
I think
and
you
another
can do it.
bad thing about
It's not really
Gamepad.
bad.
Oh, you could.
In 2,
I
you
don't-
had to fast travel between Titans, I believe.
Yeah, and you had to fast travel between Titans in order to change the weather. Yeah.
so another bad thing about the gamepad, the text size.
Oh
That's
yeah.
something I hear about from a lot of
Did-
people.
how
This is-
Text
this-
size.
Okay, how did we
This-
talk about Xenoblade
It's
X
small.
without talking about the text size?
I know.
This isn't
I was going to bring this up earlier.
We didn't go
this
through
actually, this actually isn't so much an X problem as it is just games of that
the
year.
Wii.
Yeah, not just Wii U, but like this is on other
Yeah.
platforms too.
Witcher
This is,
3, hello?
Yeah, so a lot of games that came out that year, so like in 2015, 2014, 2016, that kind of era, their text size was tiny.
I know.
It was just this weird trend where they thought they could cram in as much information as possible. But I think Xenoblade Chronicles X got the worst, the worst of the stick on that, because of simple fact is that it's arguably it has the most complex combat system in the entire series. There's so many things you need to keep in mind when you choose your builds and choose your arts and stuff like that. But all that text is so tiny that most players are just going to skim over it and just look at the primary effects. And even then, they'll just like instead of reading what the abilities do, they'll just like try it out. It's like, yeah, sure, I like that. I like that animation. It seems fun, but it might not be the most efficient thing to do.
Absolutely.
It's weird because people go on about how Xenoblade 2 system is so complicated and hard and it doesn't explain itself, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure Xenoblade X didn't have like any tutorials explaining
No, it did not!
any of
It's-
its mechanics.
Look, okay, 2 explains its combat fairly well. X does not, and the manual does not have everything.
There is no manual.
No, there is a manual.
there-
There's the electronic manual, right?
yeah, the
Yeah,
It doesn't
electronic
have
manual.
anything of value in it.
It's the health and safety stuff.
No, actually, the electronic
there-
manual. This is another thing about Nintendo at the time where they thought they could get away by making really super in-depth electronic manuals. So
I have
they
it
did.
right here.
They
Right
yes,
now.
they put in Wii U, they put in Xenoblade Chronicles X, they put in Animal Crossing New Leaf. They just put like hotspots to go to the electronic manual.
But
Oh,
the
yeah.
manual didn't tell you everything. It didn't tell you the special effects you get in Overdrive. It didn't tell you the melee and
Yeah.
range combos. It didn't
Failing
tell you
to-
anything.
Failing to describe what how Overdrive works was a major problem because like you could explain how the colors work, like orange and yellow are the damage arts and they can't be switched between. The only way to switch between is to use a purple, a yellow, a purple, a green, or a blue art. Green and blue arts tend to extend the timer. Purple arts, what do they do?
They
can't
give you
remember. I think-
TP. They give you extra TP.
Yeah, exactly. So those
I
are
didn't know how
general
to
rules
pick
that
up allies for the longest time.
yeah,
Oh my
those
God.
are general.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The allies AI is terrible. Jesus, what
Yes.
happened here?
Yeah, like when their overdrive, like their TP count never goes up, and then even when it does, they don't like use overdrive or they never revive you. It's like
You can't make them use Overdrive.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can just press like plus and yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and they try to balance it by adding a fourth party member, which
Yeah.
I actually I don't mind the idea of having 4 party members, but it's just so much more to manage.
It just needs to be balanced better.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
So much more grinding.
But I should keep this in mind. Every single Xeno game before this, and most RPGs of the time actually,
Have
Xenogears, 3 party members. Xenosaga, 3 party members. Xenoblade Chronicles, 3 party members. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, 3 party members. Xenoblade Torna, 3 party members.
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles X, 4 party
4.
members. And like, okay, there are 18 different party members, so maybe you want to use as many as possible, and you're always required to use your main character. Fine. And maybe, but like, it is, yeah, it bothers me.
I mean,
you know what?
I would love it if-
Final Fantasy 9 used 4 party members, so it's not
But
that
they
bad.
had to, but like the thing is that you have to. But I don't mind 40 party members either. But you have to balance it. And
Yeah, you have to balance it better.
Exactly.
Just that 4 party members isn't.
And
that big
as
of a
you
problem.
just hit on, that was actually one of the biggest problems that I think even defenders of the game have with it, is that because you're always forced to bring Elma and Lynn along for all the important stuff, you have only one slot open, and it's like,
It's
all
so
right.
dumb. It's like it
And that
limits
person
the
doesn't even
party
do
so
anything when you-
much.
Like when you bring that person along, they don't even do anything.
It's just be cool.
they just
just-
stand there in cutscenes.
Hey,
I
I'm gonna
guess
bring
I'm hard-
HP
like-
along.
Yeah, I guess some affinity or
Why is he not crop talking me at all?
Yeah.
So out of character. HP, are you supposed to talk down Elma? Hello?
What do you do?
I'm the
Yeah, there was
superior.
one
Why?
more-
I'm
one
the
thing I was
superior
kind of-
colonel here. I should be the one handing out orders. Ugh.
I mean, like that. Maybe doing that for all 18 characters was a little. Maybe that isn't like the wisest thing. But maybe, I don't know, cut down the character number.
Or just have a set fit for character party member. It may be even more restricted, but at least you have a more tightly woven narrative.
Yeah. It feels like it feels so wishy-washy with how when they want to do. Like honestly, like there are chapters where they want you to have 4 party members, like chapter 4 or 5, I think, where you need Lao, right,
Yeah.
or something like that. And like, yeah, that works, but just do that for every chapter. I don't get you have Doug and Gwyn and Elma, and
Irina.
Yeah.
they're never required.
And
L.
Irina.
And Irina, yeah, and they're never required.
That rare chance that Ella's required.
Yeah.
They're never required ever.
I mean,
Stupid.
L could have been required and be
It's only for
used
the
like
side.
yeah, he could have been used for like the story, but like they didn't. That's like
Yeah.
another missed opportunity they could have
Yeah,
used.
and look, we know that most of our complaints are with the story, but that's the biggest elephant in the room with X, is that the story is so undercooked and not very well told in the first place that there's so many holes in it, and what is there is nice, but it is so undercooked. It's like Mega Man X6, except the problem is massively, massively bigger because this is an RPG, and RPGs need to have a very good
They need-
story in order to be
Yeah.
considered
Yeah.
really great. And I am a huge defender of X. I will defend X until the day I die, but even I have to say that the story is pretty weak.
Okay.
Like that. Despite what I say about it, I still think it's a good game.
Yeah,
Just
like
like-
I have a lot of fun playing it in the moment, and let's actually shift the talk to the world design. I
Yeah.
really like the world.
Mira is the best world ever. I don't think there's like
It's
I don't
so
think
cool.
anything else compares. Mira is so
the
amazing.
world. The world that they created was extremely impressive.
Like the biggest world they could without any loading screens. Like that's
Yeah, there are no loading
They-
screens
they-
at all.
they-
But in
they figured out
exchange,
how
they
to
had
do
to
it.
make a lot of compromises. For one, there's no collision detection. You can phase through anything.
That's the thing I was gonna
almost
say.
everything.
Like with the skills, yeah.
You can phase through like cars in NOA. There's a lot of texture pop-in NOA. Pop-in in general was so terrible. You can phase through enemies on the world. Ugh.
Yeah.
And if you just
I
try
actually, actually like that because there are really annoying quests, and I need to get past high level monsters.
But that was actually something else that I think people point out as an issue for the game, which I did realize later on, is that unlike Xenoblade 1 and 2, enemies that attack you will always attack you, even when you're
Yeah,
like
they're
max
like
level.
almost every enemy is like super aggressive.
Oh my
And it's
god!
really
right
annoying,
in the-
like-
okay. I had this problem when I was first playing the game, but running away from enemies is a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah.
Because just like you're
Like
running,
But,
oh,
yeah.
you're gonna track like 6 or 7.
There's no one away from that. Oh,
Especially if you need to go into like a cave to get a specific item,
You have
and then
to
all
kill
the
that
enemies
thing.
just decide to attack you.
You have to kill it.
And you,
If they aggro more
Because
people
they all
you have
aggro to you.
AoEs, then you're gonna waste like 10 minutes of your life.
but I'm 40 levels higher than you. Why are you still
The
attacking me?
lava cave in a nutshell.
just being
The
nice
lava
to
cave in
me.
Sylvalum can kiss my ass.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that the one with at the end of like Bose's mission?
Everything
Yes.
is so
Yeah.
Every single playthrough, I spend 3 hours minimum
I know.
on
It's,
that thing.
Oh, I hate it so much.
I remember my
So
first playthrough, I spent days trying to get through it. Second playthrough wasn't too bad because I had already figured all the tricks to it. But
yeah.
another
Like,
thing is that
Bose, look what you've done.
the other thing is that in Xenoblade 1, the Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade X and 1 have very similar approaches to how they handle aggression. So some are side types enemies, some are vision, some are sound, some are vision, some are group type enemy. Yeah, it works. The issue: every sound type enemy will react if you take the slightest movement.
they're like trying to walk around them, like
Yeah, in Xenoblade 1, there were quests where you had to go through like super like high level anvil caves, but you could walk super slowly and you could get
Yeah, like-
the quest no problem.
and the goggles or something.
But in Xenoblade X, it doesn't matter how fast you walk because they're gonna react to you anyway.
yeah.
This is true.
Hey! Don't hate on their super hearing capabilities.
Yeah, there's
okay?
supervision, eagle eyes.
Mortifoles.
Oh yeah, I hate those things.
Oh,
Flowers.
they can
Like
aggro you
Pomeranian.
no matter how high of a level you have. Ugh.
Burn,
Oh,
Fire.
and God
Yeah.
forbid if you run over a small enemy with your scale.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Actually, I don't mind that too much, just because like the skulls just move so fast.
But if you're
Yeah,
in a,
it's like-
if you're in a cave
so
with
funny.
where you can actually bring your scale, like in Sylvalum, nope.
Yep.
I hate it when you're like in midair. There's like a high level enemy that targets you in midair, like a Zern or something, and then you don't want your skull to break. And you can't like exit out of your skull in midair. You have to land on something and then exit it. So it's like you risk getting your skull like destroyed in like that span of you're trying to get down to the ground as quick as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, I for the world design, I really do like
Wasn't
the
that
world
like
design.
one of the
Noctilum and Sylvalum
Yes.
are my two favorite parts of this.
Yeah,
world. It's
yeah,
so
so-
Sylvan
yes.
is so cool.
So yeah, we should probably like the concept. Like, I'm sure people who are I haven't heard this personally, but I'm sure people who criticize the world design say like, but there's only 5 areas and they're all very samey. No, they
Samey?
aren't.
No way! No,
No.
way!
No.
No, like they're samey within, right? Like it's like it's all jungle for Noxulum, it's all plains for Primordia, it's all desert for
No,
Oblivia.
no,
No.
no.
I mean, like,
No.
No, well, first of all, like Noctilum has like the blue jungle part.
It has the
like
blue jungle. It has
Mall,
the divine roost.
the divine
the Divine
roost. Sylvalum is like has like the volcano.
No. It has no volcano because that's in
No,
Chronicles. That's in
it
Chronicles.
has like no. It actually has a volcano. It's a hollowed out mountain that you can enter through the top.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
are you
not an
talking
act-
about the one in the west part of Sylvalum?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just has
yeah.
lava. in it.
There's also like
It has
big,
the it
there's
has the
big lakes.
sphere.
There's
It has the big sphere. Can't forget that landmark.
yeah, the
Yeah,
big sphere.
Yeah, there's a lot
the
of
Farsis.
really creative, like the fact that Noctilum is just like a big tree growing throughout the entire continent. That's
Oblivia is my least favorite area, but it's still pretty awesome.
Yeah,
That
it's
giant
empty.
ring,
Like it's
It's
really
empty.
empty.
and there's
desert.
a lot of gangland bases everywhere in
Like, sure,
the
the
era.
The color palettes are pretty similar throughout, but I mean, there are really interesting things to explore, and like the secret
Like the
areas are
giant-
super fun.
the
Like whenever
giant
I
ring.
get to a secret area, like I feel like, oh yeah, that feels good because like you get to secret area. Like X really encourages exploration. Surprise, surprise!
Yeah.
It's an open world game. But when you get to when you finally have like been exploring the single path for like 10 minutes, and you get to the end, and it gives you a secret area, it's the most satisfying moment of catharsis you will ever feel.
Yeah, exploration and X is the
Hey, I
strongest in
found
the entire series.
It's very rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. I fully admit there was a day that me and my sister actually just traded off playing the game. We were mapping Noctilum. I played for 11 hours that day. And That's the most I've ever played any Xenoblade in one setting.
Damn.
And,
It's a lot of fun.
it wasn't just me. I was switching with her, but still. And I had a lot of fun running around all the areas. I still haven't, honestly, even now, I don't know which place I would say is my absolute favorite, but it definitely comes down to Noctilum and Sylvam.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
two
I
are
mean,
like
those-
the standouts.
Those are the standouts, right? Like those have the best. Like those have the best music. Those are like the most.
Oh, Sylvam's
One
music.
by one, one by one.
Yeah, Sylvam's
Yep.
I was
night theme.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the night
So good.
theme so good.
And the weather effects in those areas too.
Oh yeah, like the,
Like,
Like,
Aurora.
like it's snowing and so.
Wait. Are you trying to say that spore weather in Sylvam is good?
It's interesting when you get it, but it's not good in the long term. But like,
I think
so
he's talking
many
about more
memories.
like,
like it's not too bad. Like
Crimson
it's like oh cool, this is a thing. I get to run around for like 5 seconds. All right, I've had enough. Just re-teleport there.
Yeah,
But
the
you know
Crimson
what's
Aurora.
you know what's the awful part? You need to have spore weather if you want to log a monster in the bestiary. It's like no.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
yeah.
are some. Yeah, but like I remember. I remember this actually very specifically. I was still playing. This was when Miiverse was still. This is my first playthrough. I remember the.
Same.
I was playing it. I was playing it the December the game came out. I didn't get the game at launch. I got it for Christmas. I remember I was playing it. I was going through Noctilum, and I was just swimming through this water, and I remember seeing that like there were like the moons above, and like the kind of glistening. This was Noctilum, the glistening kind of spore type things that were just like it looked like glowing snow, and I'm just like, this is really pretty.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Like I loved going to Sylvan for like the first time, and like it's like the most like alien like out of the continent.
Yeah.
It's like so cool.
Because
like
Primordia
sandy.
looks
It just
looks a bit
feels
like Earth.
like-
Yeah,
Primordia is like the
Sylvam
most
is a bit
closest to Earth.
exotic, but still kind of realistic. Sylvam's like, oh, ooh.
It's like,
It's like really alien like, and like Caldros, it's like really cool because like it's not like the alien didn't build those places. It's actually like an ancient civilization that built those. I find that
Yeah.
interesting.
Theories abound.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any other thoughts about the world?
Caldros is a hellhole.
Yeah.
I don't.
Although I don't mean that in a negative way because I actually mean that in a positive way. I really like Caldros.
I like the white phosphorus lake.
I do. Yeah.
Oh,
Like the
yeah,
giant
wow.
like giant like weird flower thing.
Did you kill off one of the guys by sending him over there? In that side quest, I think it was like with Corwin's team.
I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I remember
Like,
that.
you either send him west or you send him south. Don't send him west. Send him south.
I sent him south, I think. Yeah.
Good. If you send him south, you saved him.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I saved them both times.
Because on my first playthrough, I sent him west and I saw his body,
Oh,
and then Corwin killed himself.
Nice.
Some of those side quests were really dark. Now that I think about it.
yeah, like the one with like the guy. I forgot what his name was, but he like was like making like an. He's like literally killing men on like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Alex,
The
are you talking about Alex?
The man.
Yeah.
no.
Alex. I think. I don't know.
Are you talking about the pizza guy?
Pizza
I
No,
remember
no.
Tyson talking about
Wait.
the-
No, Alex is not the pizza guy. Alex is a different guy that.
No, he's a different racist.
Oh,
Yeah,
racist.
well, yeah, the racists in Xenoblade X are interesting because, like, you can see how it's like, why, like, because
I guess
on a
it'd be
new planet,
It'd be more speciesist, I guess, but
yeah,
Fair enough.
Like,
yeah,
um,
speciesist.
like
No,
on a new
xenophobic.
planet. Oh,
No, xenophobic. They just call other life form
Yeah.
xenos.
well, I mean, Xeno literally translates to outsider or alien. So
Unknown, basically.
unknown. That's why or strange or alien. And that's why it's like Xenoblade because the Xeno series is just because they're very strange. Because like the Xenogears is like meant to like portray like an otherworldly
Species
source.
blending in with each other.
Angelic. Angelic.
Yeah, so like the Xeno thing right here, but when they talk about xenophobia, they're talking about like fear of outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the world, I think probably the most interesting thing is once again something that doesn't get fully explored, which is I think the game, or at least in some additional material for the game, it makes it apparent that Cauldron, Silverlum, Noctilum, Primordia, and Oblivia are not everything on Mira,
Nah, it's
and
not.
that there's more lands elsewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, a part of that has to do with the fact that the original setting for the game was meant to take place in Neo Tokyo. They couldn't, but they
They couldn't get the skyscrapers working.
yeah, they couldn't get the skyscrapers working on the Wii U hardware, so instead they chose to shift the focus
Just
to,
one big skyscraper with
to
a
Los
clock.
Angeles,
Mhm.
which, as Persona 5 has taught us, all Japan people think that Los Angeles is the capital of the U.S.
Yeah, the capital. Yeah, the capital of America.
but
Isn't it
like-
like in the middle somewhere?
Yeah, it's just that stuff reminds me a lot of probably one of the more interesting quests that once again ends, and there are a lot of quests in the game that end, but you don't want them to end because like it's
so
finally
interesting.
presenting you with that death that you want to sink your teeth into, but then it just ends. It's like, see you later, I guess. And one of the
it's
quests
like
is
another a chain or something.
See you
It's like
next
another
game, buddy!
I don't remember I think it's Lara Nara or Lara Mara that gives out the
Lara
quest.
Oh, are you
And
talking
you have
about
to
the
go-
White Liefeld, Black Liefeld?
Yeah, specifically the one that you
what?
bring back recordings of another Ark ship, on
Right,
which
yeah.
he
Yeah.
comments that there was like French and Chinese or Japanese
It was
voices.
English, French, and Japanese, and those were the three. Those are the three countries that collaborated with the Earthlight colonization project.
Mhm.
Those are the all the Project Exodus ships were from those three countries.
Yeah, and like they hint that maybe a ship landed somewhere nearby, possibly also on Mira, and that
Did you see the remains of it? Or is
and
that
it's just interesting. Like that quest ended, and I'm like, can I learn more? But obviously no, because the quest was over. But it's
Yeah.
like just
Like I
that-
actually
yeah.
find there's a lot of the species that I actually find like the alien species you can recruit to be quite interesting. Like the Zarbugon are very interesting because they're a reflection of humanity and like when the theory of evolution was still coming out, and like there's like they still worship like they're like a great being what I can't remember their god, but there's
The
this
Zebra are my favorite.
yeah, but they're a very funny race, and they're very like practical, kind of pragmatic characters. Yeah, we'll get more into other species, but I like the end of that quest is they finally find a picture of their god, and it's a human.
This is
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like like there's a hologram of because the Zarbugan are implied to be another creation of the Samar race, who also created the Ganglion. So, and the humans are quite literally descended from the Samarians. Whether on it, so I find that super interesting. The Orphi are great.
Orphe
Orphe
is
are
amazing.
cool, so I think they're my second favorite. I don't know.
I think my first favorite is the Orphe.
Yeah, I really like the Orphe, but just I don't know. I like their designs above all. I just love the way they look. I think they're cool.
Yeah, they're cool.
I'm a big fan of the Rothians as well, like the samurai, mercenary Ronin characters.
The Rothians
I
are my
like how
favorite.
they're still like samurai, even though they're Xenos.
Yeah,
Cat Samurai.
Yeah, the Rothians are my favorite. But what was the Orph thing that was the thing that controls all of them? Like
The
a
Ova.
hive mind?
The
Right,
Ova.
there we go.
There's a really interesting side quest where where a beast consumes one of them, and because they mention the ova as a virus basically, where that's what promotes their hive mind. But the ova enters like this foreign being, and so you're sent to go kill that creature, and they keep multiplying because that's how the ova works.
Yeah.
And you have to completely wipe out that section of ova, and like the Orphe mentioned, like they could have been kind of like a siblings to us or something, and I just found that super interesting.
Yeah.
Lots of good ideas, but just that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ideas. Like when it comes to the alien races, you can definitely tell that's where they decided to focus on.
But I think that's like a good part of like the side quests. Like the big chunk of side quests came from those races, and I think that's like a really good way to show how those races like are like. Just because the side quests give them like development and stuff, it's interesting. I really like.
Yeah, like the aliens, I feel like are very, very well developed. The issue, none of them are featured in the story beyond a couple chapters.
Yeah.
Yep, as always.
Like
Oh, by the way, the
Rothians.
Darbogan god is called Golbolga.
Golbolga, yeah.
Just look it up.
Like Golbolga is a human. So
Huh.
it's super interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk the gamepad features. So the
They're okay.
the Frontier.
It's not really.
Yeah.
It's not really required.
Yeah.
It's just
Huh.
another thing. The gamepad as well as the online feature to the game, they both support a feeling I have to the game is that they try to, instead of laser focusing on certain aspects, they just decide to create as much possible diverse content as they could. Instead, what they did was they created a bunch of subpar content instead of a couple bits of really, really good
I
content.
forgot to talk about my biggest problem with the on-foot combat in general: appendages.
What?
Appendages
Yeah.
are like pretty unneeded in combat, but
In
that goes
com-
in line with what you said about how they try to create so much. There's like a lot of stuff in X, but some of them is just like not really developed at all, like appendages and the online and the gamepad features. Like, why do we need all these things?
I mean, I actually don't mind the Frontier Nav. I find it's a good way to make money.
Okay,
But
Frontier Nav is fine, but
Well,
but
Frontier Nav-
using the gamepad, you don't need a gamepad at all. You just go to the menu, just hover over it, just click on it. It's easy. Why do
Like
you
I had
need
to
a gamepad?
use Frontier Nav to get like 100,000 storage for
Half on
the
that.
Ares
But
90.
you can program that to happen within the game within a menu. You don't need a gamepad.
You can program a robot to do all that for you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
yeah, you could literally set an AI to make the most optimized Frontier Nav or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't-
pretty
It just feels like something that an AI was meant to do.
But yeah, I played a lot of the game on the gamepad. I mean, like switching from screen to screen, like because I don't really have like a TV to play on. So like I had to like use the like press a little bottom button. I mean, sometimes it would be annoying, but like other times, yeah, it's fine. But
I put it on a monitor, and since my monitor couldn't output sound at the time, I have a new monitor that can output sound now. But at the time, I had to plug in the headphones into my gamepad, so I had to keep switching back and forth too, because I
Yeah.
want to hear that music. But I can only hear it if it displayed on the on the gamepad.
yeah, like the only problem I would have with the gamepad is just probably
They're
the
just
size.
the
It's
logo
just
for
so
the-
small.
Text size is awful.
Mm.
We already
Yeah.
talked about that.
Oh, that reminds me of the one other thing about the game, because I remember we were talking about the text size before, and I thought of something.
Yeah.
Audio mixing in the game sucks.
Yeah,
It
The
sucks
music-
really bad.
the music is too loud.
Like there is.
Oh god.
Then
Oh my gosh.
that
yes,
that right there
exactly.
was
Ow.
that right there was a perfect description of how Xenoblade Chronicles X is. While the
Oh,
music
can't
is
hear
playing in the
anything.
background, you can't hear any of us talking.
Oh, that's like it was the one. It was like singing it's chapter 9 after the aliens have all left from the like the vocal theme was playing. You could not hear Elma's voice at all.
Yeah.
I
There's
was
the
able
one
to
time
hear
where you're
it
talking to
because
Vandam, Nagi, and Tucson, and it's just.
Awful.
Thank
I
God for
think
the
it's
subtitles.
Melancholia's playing or something.
Look,
Thank
I
God-
can still hear it amidst all of the loud music. Look, I survived Sonic Adventure 2. I can survive Xenoblade Chronicles X. But it's still pretty bad. Well, thank God for custom options in 2, but even then,
Yeah.
the default options in 2 are way better.
Yeah, the default options in 2 are way better than the settings in X. That's for sure.
Just what a bizarre
That's
foresight.
Yeah. Which is weird because they mixed Xenoblade Chronicles 1 so perfectly.
But and then they did it again with 2.
Mm.
So
Two had some issues, but overall it worked well.
X is like that is that embarrassing moment at prom that you want to forget.
Mm. There's
Oh,
the
yeah, like the
analogy.
song you're singing, Brian. Like
There's
that
like
song's good.
Claudia.
It only plays in that one spot.
That one slow dance.
Like it only plays during the menu theme, and you're like, you never get to hear it anywhere else. But it's a good song.
It's a great Melancholia is one of the most underrated songs of the entire OST.
Because you
Yeah,
don't hear
really
it because you're just gonna mash it through to choose your squad.
God, that song is really good. But
really
yeah,
is good.
no one listens to it. But it's like that song is like that. Like if you look at the lyrics, it's talking about like how life, like the chances that life gives you absolutely suck, but you should just go with it anyway.
Just keep going.
No.
It talks about like it's like life just sucks. Deal with
Maybe
it
it
and move on.
won't. Maybe it won't suck later.
Maybe that's an analogy for real life.
There's also a lot in there that's talking about how a lot of the popular how popular views of society has kind of enslaved humanity. So it's not really they aren't really full of free thought. And it's talking about how you aren't and this is like pop culture and like politics and stuff like that. And it's like there are people though who just don't want to be part of the whole and want to be like individuals because they're talking about like letting media control you if you don't act and stuff like that, and how the world will crumble around you. They're like there's a lot. Like, especially one of my favorite songs, just because of like it's overt about what it's talking about, and it's like, wow, that's really like violent imagery, but that's really good.
Yeah, it's very, very like upfront. I like that, I guess.
Yeah. Kiwi the Lost is also a great song.
Wait, what?
That's the final. The
Kiwi.
Oh! I
Kiwi.
thought you said the Kiwi we lost.
The Kiwi.
Yeah, it is good.
Kiwi Lost. No, it's
good.
the Lost Kiwi now.
Yeah.
I'm now.
Find the Kiwi.
No, I'm
The Kiwi we lost. All the people cried in vain.
Your life.
Tried
Actually, my
to drop
favorite.
your food, and the sky went dark.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
good. My
that's a
favorite
good
song
song.
in the OST had to be In the Forest. I think I said this before, but I really
Yeah,
like it.
in the forest is good. I heard that one the other day for the first time.
Specifically, the X to Z version, but still, it's just a good song.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I think we should start doing like the final thoughts.
The
I think,
final
unless you
wrap-up.
guys have anything else.
Still my favorite game in the Xeno series. But it has a
Unless-
lot of problems. More than Xenoblade 1 or 2 combined.
Mm-hmm.
I could spend like 30 minutes talking about the things I don't like about Xenoblade X.
We have.
We just
On my own. On my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, so-
I'm sure. Yeah.
For me, I think it's a good game. It has its flaws. Overall, a really good game.
Mhm.
There are things I enjoy about it. There's things I don't really enjoy about it. But like, I love it. Not as much as Xenoblade 1 and 2, but still a really good game.
For me.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll let others go to voice their final opinions.
it's first time I played through it, I did really much enjoy it, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, I guess it wasn't that good. And I played it again, and I'm like, yeah, there's fun to be had there, but I just wish that the death was as much as I hoped it would be.
Yeah.
Okay, Brendan.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was a good game. That's about it, really. But yeah, I think is that the gameplay is the only thing that really like stands out the most.
Yeah.
Well, like, everything
Oh,
else,
yeah.
everything else is just like hard to like really like, comprehend.
For me, Xenoblade Chronicles X is just such a weird beast because I knew when I first played it, I knew going in that it was going to be a more gameplay focused story, and I was okay with that. But even then, I was still like disappointed because, to this day, I've to this day of the Xeno games that I played, that being Xenosaga Episode 1, Xenogears, Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade X, Xenoblade 2, and Xenoblade Torna. Xenoblade X ranks the lowest of them. Not because it's a bad game, but because it's not what I'm looking for in a
It
Xenoblade
has the
game.
most flaws. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it
not
has
just
the most
that.
flaws, yeah. Even I, as an ex-defender, will admit
Well,
that.
Xenosaga has Xenosaga Episode 1 has a lot of issues, but I like Xenosaga more. Actually, probably, I honestly, as an overall experience, Xenoblade X is probably better than Xenosaga Episode 1, but I like Xenosaga Episode 1 more because it's what I put priority on. I put priority on a lot of like the symbolism and the general inspirations that you like tell that are in the game, and X just doesn't have that. And I'm okay with like a lower story, but like a lower priority in story. But if there's nothing there, I don't know why I bother. I play games for stories, really. I don't really play them for gameplay.
Yeah, that's
So it's a game that I always have fun playing in the moment. But whenever I look back, and I just feel completely, I just remember how underwhelmed I was the first time, which sucks, which makes it all the more bittersweet. The more details we hear about how the game was made, because you could tell like there was going to be something really, there could have been something really special there, but it was just too many restrictions. The restrictions, too many. There's like the staff was too split up between like people working on Smash Brothers and Zelda and Splatoon, and also the fact that that they just it was on the wrong console. It was which didn't have a lot of which means they didn't have a lot of as much funding as they could have possibly. Didn't have enough development time. I'll keep that in mind. Like Xenoblade Chronicles X, if like in the span it took to develop Breath of the Wild, Monolith was able to output Xenoblade X and Xenoblade 2 in that pretty much almost exact time frame.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I just wonder sometimes if Xenoblade Chronicles X had taken the exact same amount of time as Zelda Breath of the Wild, how different this discussion would have been. Now,
Yeah,
I'm
It
not-
actually released in 2015
we would probably
unlike
say Xenoblade actually like the game of this generation or something like that.
but it's easy to say that in retrospect because we have Xenoblade 2 now, but I'm not sure how I would have felt like that in the moment because it had already been because the more it gets delayed, the more Xeno fans would start to lose interest in it, right?
Yeah.
And it's easy to say that like, oh, I just wish I had more time in retrospect because we're in the future and we played these games now.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. It's just a weird thing you got to balance, and I feel like it was lost potential.
Uh-huh. Although personally, I feel like that if I'm a fan of like a franchise, I'm okay with any delay.
Generally, I am
Final
too.
Fantasy 15.
Hey, did you
later.
Did you like Final Fantasy Versus 13? Too bad, nerd. You ain't getting that.
Okay.
Ever. Because they changed console and engine and director. I mean, they kept some of the story, but anyway, that's a different discussion.
That's a different thing that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why the series I'm gonna be.
And
yeah.
Jesus,
They'll have
we
they'll
spent
have
like we spent like 3 hours on just Xenoblade 1 and X, so we're gonna cut this podcast into 2 parts. We're
Yeah.
gonna make this
Xenoblade.
1 and X, and next time we meet up, we're gonna go to Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade 2 Torna the Golden Country.
Indeed.
Which some of us
makes
still
sense.
need to beat.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Brandon, use this opportunity to beat Torna.
Yeah, I beat it yesterday, and I have so much to talk about, but I'll save that for.
We'll
Whenever
is there-
save that for
guys-
next time we meet up.
Is there any final thoughts or questions we want to ask before we head off about
I'll
these
just
two
like one more
games?
thought. Like we all have our own opinions about the game, like Xenoblade X and Xenoblade 1, and like I'm glad we all can come to like a not like an agreement, but like we can all like
Agree
all,
or
like-
disagree.
yeah we can all be like work together and kind of like be. It's nice. Like it's nice to not like voice your opinion and not be like criticized for it. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I'm
what
glad
this
we
is. That's what this
have
podcast is for.
Yeah, I'm glad we have
Wait,
this
you mean
podcast to
you
do
won't
that.
bow down to your true god territory Walmart?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're
Oh,
talking
you
about.
heretic!
Despotic Arsene is the true god of this world.
Oh dear.
True God of
The
War.
level 108 bunny that's based off of the Monty Python movie.
Oh my god.
Looks like we
Run
already have
away!
a few inside jokes for this podcast.
All right,
Territory Rock Art being our god, and
let's see how many hills we stand off of by the end of this first season of podcasts.
Yeah, but
let's do the ending now, Owen.
well,
Yeah, okay,
before that, as a
Oh, yeah.
sneak peek of what will become next, what's our overall ranking of the Xenoblade games?
Nah.
do we want to?
Blade.
Do we
Like, do you wanna
want to
include-
very quickly just say our rankings and leave it at that?
Okay.
Sure. Okay. So for me, it's Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade Torna of the Golden Country, and then Xenoblade X. So yes, I did put Xenoblade 2 above Xenoblade 1. Look forward to talking about that when we get there.
Yeah, well, yeah. How about you, Arden?
This is a generally better game than it. Like,
For me, I can't really decide where I want to put Torna yet. I beat it yesterday. So let's see.
Good
I
job.
think Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 1, Torna would be like either somewhere in between both of those. I don't know if I which one I like yet, but and then X.
Okay. How about you, Ianese?
Let's see. Probably Xenoblade 2, 1,
Mhm.
Torna, X.
So very
Sounds
similar
fine.
to Owen and Arden.
yes,
How about you,
I haven't
Brandon?
really decided where I want to put Torna though.
same here. 2, 1.
Okay.
I find it interesting that we all like.
I can't rank Torna yet, but
I actually have a lot. There's a lot of issues I have about 2, and I'll bring them up. I'll bring them up soon. But
no, I just really love the gameplay much. It's like so much like.
Actually,
Yeah,
I like 2. I like 2 mostly for what it did to the story. But
Yeah.
even then, I'm still like very 2. Having 2 being my
Like
number
I
one.
said, I'm probably gonna have to play the first one again to see what if it's like.
Yeah. Well, this will be. I want to bring up. I'll bring up parts about what I worry about when I put 2 as my number 1 game in the series, because there is a lot of hesitations I have placing it there. But
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about all that.
Well, for me, this might
But
be
like
a
in
bit.
recent memory, it's like yeah.
This is gonna
Right,
be
yeah.
a bit different, but I'm gonna rank X 2 1 Torna
Alright, that's fine.
because
Yeah.
because this is how I feel, and we'll talk about what I feel about 2 and Torna later on and how I feel about them. But
It's gonna be fun.
it's gonna be fun, especially when we get to Torna, because I have quite a bit of things to say about it. Most of them good, some of them eh.
Yeah, it's gonna.
And I'll just say this: I don't hate Torna. I love it. It's just that
I'm just not sure how to feel about Laura as the main character.
we'll talk about
that later. But for
Yes.
now, we'll consider this quest clear.
I got it. Yeah.
Alright,
Alright, we'll see
Wow,
you next
that was-
time for part 2
Yeah.
of this Xenoblade podcast
yeah, this
discussion.
has already been on
This-
for like 3 hours. I don't know how long.
This is 3 hours ish. It's insane.
Oh,
Anyway,
man.
w-
The best
Those
part
2
about
games.
this entire discussion is the fact that we thought we could cover all 4 games in 2 hours.
nope,
No.
nope. We're only halfway
And-
there, within like 1.5% of it.
And another cool thing is this has been 3 hours, and that was just brief overview of both 1 and X.
It's a brief
Yeah.
overview. It's nothing too
we
big.
could have gone into deep conversation and be like 6 hours long.
Yeah.
And we will
This is-
still be on Xenoblade 1.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to.
So much to unpack with these games.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway.
honestly the greatest like RPG series right now.
It really
That's what
is, honestly, in my humble
yeah,
opinion.
it is.
Yeah,
Our
Monolith with Nintendo's backing and the fact that the fans are getting more and more
The
used
new-
to it.
It's a new Nintendo Final Fantasy.
It really
Yeah, like
is.
Monolith in general is just not even Nintendo, just Monolith is going through its own kind of renaissance right now. It's really cool.
Amazing, yeah. Anyway, we'll catch you guys later for next time. Peace!
Yep.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.